All right, we are going to call this April 21st council meeting to order. If the clerk will please call the roll.
Councilmember Amy Lamb. Here. Councilmember Roisin O'Farrell.
Here.
Mayor Josh Amato.
Here.
Councilmember Ken Treen.
Present.
Councilmember Michael Boyer.
Here.
Councilmember Pam Stewart.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Debbie Treen.
Here.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Boyer, if you'll please lead us in the pledge. Thank you. And Councilmember Stewart, would you please read the land acknowledgement?
Yes, thank you. We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous land of Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights to this land, specifically the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Thank you very much. And do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
It's been moved and
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Treen. Okay, would you like any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Up next, we have public comment. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. When you get to the podium, please state your name and your city of residence. I'm going to call up 3 people at a time. Up first, we have Catherine Boudoir, Hank Klein, and then Lisa Tobin.
I'm actually Heather Roshko, and I'm speaking on behalf of Catherine for the Sammamish Symphony.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, council members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Heather Roshko, and I'm here on behalf of the Sammamish Symphony Orchestra and to advocate for our use of Building 120. I have played violin with the Sammamish Symphony for 22 years and am currently the board president. We are a nonprofit organization that has been part of the Sammamish community for 35 years. Other than a few essential paid positions, our members are volunteers who give their time, talent, and energy to bring live orchestral music to this community. Our mission is to enrich the cultural life of Sammamish, Bellevue, and the greater Seattle region by presenting high-quality, accessible, and affordable symphonic music under the artistic leadership of music director Adam Stern. For the last 30 years, we have presented 5 to 6 concerts each year, along with some small ensemble performances locally for the public to enjoy. We are a group made up of all ages, including high school students through seniors. Recently this year, we started holding open dress rehearsals the day before our concerts at retirement communities for folks who can't get to our performances. But every single year, we face the same challenge, finding a consistent place to have our rehearsals. We rehearse Thursday evenings from 7:15 to 9:45. In the early years, we rehearsed at Providence Point. For the past 20 plus years, we've been at Eastlake High School, but Eastlake isn't always available, which means we often have to search for space in other schools or churches. The schools charge a small fee, and the church's fees vary widely in cost. While we are grateful for each space that has opened its doors to us, this constant shifting creates confusion for our members, adds extra administration work, and makes financial planning difficult because the cost changes depending on where we are rehearsing each week. And though we are mostly a volunteer organization, running a symphony still carries significant expenses. Purchasing and renting music, compensating our music director and guest artists, securing rehearsals and performance venues, and covering insurance and storage costs are just to name a few. Having a consistent rehearsal space that doesn't carry unpredictable fees would greatly help us manage our budget and focus our resources on serving the community. Having a stable home would also make everything easier for our musicians who already give so much of their time to participate. Why this building? Its location aligns with where our group has been rehearsing for decades. The building is currently unused and could be activated right away. It provides the stability we have never had and that we need to continue serving Sammamish at a high level. Ideally, having access to a theater space in the future would allow us to not only hold rehearsals, but also perform locally, keeping concerts right in the community that we serve. After 35 years of serving Sammamish without a permanent home, we are ready to take an unused asset and turn it into something the entire community can be proud of. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Hank, and then Lisa, and then Celia Wu.
Good evening. My name is Hank Klein, Sammamish resident for 38 years. I'm the vice chair of the Parks and Recreation Commission, where I've served for most of the last 20 years. On behalf of all the members of the Parks and Recreation Commission, I'd like to express our strong support for the Evans Creek Preserve Trail Connection project that appears on your agenda this evening. This amendment would provide an additional $50,000 to the existing contract to allow staff and the current consultant to continue moving the project forward by addressing updated King County floodplain permitting requirements that were not fully anticipated in the original scope supported by City Council last September. Most importantly, it supports the next phase of the project, which will connect the newly completed loop trail, officially opening this week, to the existing trail system within Evans Creek Preserve. This connection is a meaningful step toward creating a more complete and accessible walking trail network, which has been identified as a top priority by the community in the City Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan, and reflected in planning efforts for over 20 years. When finished, the project will add nearly 2 miles of new and improved trails, helping people better experience the area while also protecting sensitive ecological features. Sufficient funds are allocated in the 2025 Parks CIP budget. $275,000 is allocated for Evans Creek Preserve, trail system, and habitat improvements, and $500,000 is available biannually to use towards the future trail connections to the adjacent city parcels. The total anticipated project costs, including design and construction, are $650,000. The Commission is familiar with this project through multiple presentations over the past few years, and we've also had the opportunity to visit the site last year prior to construction of the loop trail. While the Commission has not taken a formal vote or resolution on this item, we strongly endorse the funding of this contract amendment to support the final development of a trail connecting Evans Creek Preserve to the Sammamish Plateau. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa, followed by Celia, and then Mary Wichter.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Tobin, and I'm a Sammamish resident. I'm asking you tonight to approve Phase 2 of the Building 120 project. I think this is a very important resource for our community for reasons that have already been expressed tonight. I'm the current president of Block Party Quilters. We're a nonprofit organization with over 155 members of all ages based here in Sammamish. Our monthly meetings at local churches and schools, which are open to both members and guests, feature nationally known quilting artists. These speakers also often conduct 1- and 2-day-long workshops. We promote quilting and other needle arts through sharing, education, community service, and quilt shows. Our community service includes making quilts for Ronald McDonald House, Issaquah Kid Vantage, Swedish Palliative Care and ICU, Treehouse, and Evergreen Hospice. For the past 40 years, we have held a 3-day quilt show that attracts over 1,000 visitors from throughout the region. Most recently, the quilt show has been at the Issaquah Community Center because we have not been able to find a reasonably priced facility in Sammamish that is large enough to display over 200 quilts and to provide space for vendors to sell quilting supplies. Visitors to our quilt shows often also patronize local businesses, which benefits the community. We think Building 120 would be a great location for our quilt show, monthly meetings, and monthly quilting workshops. BPQ could rent the facility, the building's facilities, which would provide monthly income to the city from these meetings and workshops. Specifically, Block Party Quilters is requesting that the City Council prioritize artistic and community use functions in the Building 120 project to accommodate events like BPQ's quilt show, classrooms for workshops, and large meeting spaces. Being able to reserve these facilities up to a year in advance is important so that we can book nationally recognized artists well in advance, as well as have the predictability that the symphony spoke to. We would be happy to work with city staff and your consultants to help define the spaces needed and a fee structure that covers the city's costs while making rental of this space affordable for nonprofit organizations like BPQ. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Celia, followed by Mary, and then Apinder Dinsa.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Celia Wu. I report for Sammamish Local News, and I am a professor at the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication at Washington State University. I am back because I have received no response to my letter to the council requesting that the ethics officer confirm one simple fact in Kimsey versus City of Sammamish, that the court did not find that I violated any person's First Amendment rights, contrary to what Councilmember Stewart publicly stated last summer. As I received no response to this request, I am bringing the evidence directly to you. Tonight, I am presenting the declaration of Robert Sidnor, COO of Archive Social, which you have before you. First, I want to address the publicly made claim on social media by former council member Jason Ritchie that I paid for this declaration. That is false. The City of Sammamish contracts with Archive Social to archive its official social media channels. I did not retain him, commission him, or pay him. Mr. Sidnor reviewed the records of all comments posted by plaintiff Sarah House Kimsey on the city's Facebook page. He concluded, under penalty of perjury, which you have in front of you, that the deleted tags were applied to her comments because her own privacy settings were changed or her account was disabled, not because her comments were deleted. He also confirmed per Facebook's policy that when a comment is deleted, it is permanently removed from Facebook servers and backup systems. It can never be retrieved. This means if I had actually deleted Ms. Kimsey's comments, they would have been gone forever. But Mr. Sidnor could not have reviewed them. He did review them because they were never deleted. My attorneys filed the Sidnor declaration in the court record. Ms. Kimsey and her legal team received it, but they did not withdraw. They continued to prosecute the case based on Ms. Kimsey's and Ms. Kate Langsdorff's false allegations that I deleted comments that, as the record showed, were never deleted. Councilmember Stewart told this community that a judge found that I violated First Amendment rights. The court made no such finding. When an elected official publicly and falsely tells this community that I violated civil rights, every member of this body should take this seriously. This includes the city attorney and the city manager. I will be back with more evidence and will keep on coming back until I receive a response correcting Councilmember Stewart's false and damaging statements about one of her constituents. We have enough elected officials spreading disinformation in our federal government. We do not need this from an elected official in Sammamish. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Mary Wichter, followed by Upinder Dinsa, and then Carrie Bosworth.
Good evening, Council. This is Mary Wichter. I've lived in Sammamish over 25 years. Tonight, I brought with me a cone that I set up with a sign that I've used for fire hydrants in our neighborhood because there are people that park there, construction or other people. So I'm here tonight. I started in February. Safety needs to be first, and Washington state law says that you cannot park within 15 feet of a fire hydrant. And the problem is in the city of Sammamish, they don't prevent that on private roads. So if you call and try to get enforcement, or if you've had trouble with a neighbor or somebody visiting, they'll respond, but they won't do anything. And I think that's really bad because if you have a fire, it can start on one house and it can go to another house. It can burn down trees in parks or in other lots. And I think we really need to have it clear. So I had spoken with the traffic officer in Issaquah, our traffic officer here, who said the code was not clear and you had to follow King County and all that stuff. In Issaquah, they did adopt code, and it's attached to my thing tonight. I've given that to you before. I also visited the city of Bellevue and spoke with a police officer there, and he gave me like a one-page handout on a fire hydrant, and I believe, it's not quoted, it's like, if your fire hydrant's obstructed, that's no good. The only way it can be used is if it's free and clear. I did learn from talking with people that when a fire department has to do an emergency call, they will move whatever they have to move to try to do the call, and they will do things like break car windows and put put hoses through to do that. But anytime you have an obstruction or an obstacle in the way, you are reducing the response time. And we all pay a lot for taxes. Everybody in the city deserves emergency medical services. That's even been mentioned in this council room recently. And if you're delaying people for private roads, it doesn't help. And if you look at the city's map, which is a street map, which is online, I've showed you before, about 20% of the streets in Sammamish are private. But Sahali is a large portion of that. And I did go to the Sahali Gate security officer and talk with him. And he said, no, we have roving patrols. In Sahali, we don't even let people park on the streets. They have to park in their driveway or their garage. And he goes, and we will ticket. And so they're very good. So you don't have a lot of the city. But if you even have one problem, it should be too much. So there are over 2,500 calls the EF&R, Eastside Fire and Rescue, responds to per year. That's in a 6-year rolling average. 2,300 of those are fire-related or emergency-related, and there's about under 2,400 fire hydrants between Sammamish Plateau Water and Northeast Sammamish Water and Sewer District. So I've given you all the data that you need to move forward with this. It's about safety. It's about there should not be a fire hydrant or an access blocked with an obstacle or obstruction anywhere in the city. So I hope that you'll move it up in priority. I know Deputy City Manager kind of put it on her list, but this really needs to happen. There's no reason for other cities do it. And in Kirkland, they said, there's a law. It's there for a reason. We ticket public or private, and we can tow. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Upinder, then Carrie, and then Ann Humes.
Good evening, council members, mayor, and all the welcome citizens from our area. 2-3 things, quick. First, I wanted to commend the council. Last meeting I was here, there was a big debate on expenditure of $265,000 on the tile. I could barely sit in my chair. I really wanted to get up and start repairing the tile myself, because in such tough times, we should not be spending money on those types of things. It's not a safety hazard as far as I'm concerned. I come here very often, but I wanted to commend the voting process. That's why I sat through all of it. Keep it up. Continue to please challenge, because these are tough times for a lot of people. So that's number one. Number two, electric bikes continue to be an issue on the trail. I live on the lake. I live right by it. My grandkids are walking around there. I stopped 2 of them the other day and told them that you need to watch your speed. So I don't know what the solution is, but it's something that I know you have signs there and it's supposed to be 15 miles and less than that, but I see people just whooshing right through, and of course I have to cross it every time to go on to my home. But I more worry about the little kids that are, walking, and dogs are walking over there. And lastly, I would like to commend your planning director, David Pyle. Despite the low staffing levels right now, which I talked about last time, I am amazed at how much time he can just pull out and call and reach out and offer any kind of assistance until, the full staff comes up. I know in the past I have said, hey, this is not right, but there's also time to actually compliment. So I would like you all to know that he's reaching out and trying to do the best he can while you are hiring. I hope you have hired all of them by now. I'll find out from him calling him. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Carrie, then Ann, and then Paul Stickney.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carrie Bosworth. I'm a Sammamish resident of 8 years. Last week at the April 14th study session, there was a discussion about amending the list of species of local importance to include bobcat, black bear, and mountain lion. 2 specialists, along with the city staff, stated that other cities have not, nor have they helped any cities add them, but they did present options to move forward. Midway, Councilmember Treen clarified that his question was simply whether these species were on the list or not. The list is available in SMC 21.03.020W1G, and it does not include them. During the discussion, in addition to pointing out an updated critical areas ordinance in 2024, council members were compelled to affirm that they did and care about wildlife. I mean, I believe we all do. These provisions in the updated amendments codify protections for environmentally sensitive areas such as steep slopes, streams, wetlands, and more, including habitats of species of local importance. Sammamish is not slacking here. The city has invested and considerable time, effort, and money into species that actively need protection, namely fish and salmon. I recall a past meeting where Councilmember Treen came to get an increase from $45,000 to $60,000 for the kokanee salmon work group, I believe, and the council approved it without hesitation. We are recognized for these efforts, have completed projects successfully, and continue to spend millions of dollars on other projects that may or may not yield desired results. For example, George Davis Creek. With power comes great responsibility. When leadership asks a question, city staff, like other professionals in any organization, they must spend time coming back with a response, even when the answer is obvious. This is at a disturbing time when we are deferring facility repairs. I can't stop looking at the floor out there. It looks terrible. Facing potential cuts and tax increases resulting from a structural budget deficit. I urge the council to focus on increasing revenue, balancing our housing mix, providing the right mix of services without continually asking homeowners to pay more. If we're not getting the results we want from the community, I would urge you to consider more education and incentives. Don't take them to court or pursue never-ending protections. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We have Ann, followed by Ann, and then Paul, and then Jillian Wallace.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Ann Humes. I am a Sammamish resident of 22 years. I'm here on behalf of C3, the Community and Culture Collective. C3 is a nonprofit in formation organized around the idea that Sammamish is ready for a dedicated community arts and culture space. We've been following the 120 building feasibility study with interest, and we recognize there's still a lot to learn before any decisions get made. When I served as an arts commissioner, I led the subcommittee that drafted the Arts and Culture Strategic Plan. One of the clearest things we heard from residents was that they wanted somewhere to gather, much like what we heard tonight. C3's goal of creating a community center in the 120 building is a natural next step in realizing this plan. As the city begins the next phase of the feasibility study, we're eager to learn what the community actually wants from a space like this, what programming would draw people in, and what kind of operating model would make it sustainable over the long term. That input will shape how C3 could be a credible operating partner for the city down the road. We know the council is rightly focused on making sure operational costs are covered by whoever takes on the building. We take that seriously, and we're keeping that at the forefront of our planning. For now, I just wanted you to know we're here, we're organized, and we're doing the work. I'll look forward to keeping you updated on things as they progress. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Paul, followed by Jillian, and then Denise Darnell.
Good evening, City Council members. Paul Sticknate, Sammamish. On Building 120, I suggest that we don't stop completely, but we order current critical area delineations for wetlands and for streams and for wildlife habitat, and then show the buffers over the entire site. There's a lot of time that's gone by since 2008, and that'll have an impact on what happens to the city or if it's sold to someone else. About the impact fees, generally on larger units, which is a majority of what we have here in the city, the fees are increasing more for multifamily than for single family, and there's very little impact for change of residential unit type. the current structure, proposed is saying that Sammamish has 2.75 people for single family or the multifamily. Well, that's not accurate, and they're saying that's a King County number. I got the numbers from King County. The average is 2.37, 2.85 for single family, and 1.75 multifamily. People per unit are not equal across the board, overstating multifamily population growth. Trip generation per unit is not equal across the board. Saying that it is overstates multifamily trip generations. Internalization is real. PM peak trips within centers are a third less than anywhere else in the city. That's not in here. A new single-family home has a PM peak trip of about 1. The multifamily, based on type, is from 0.15 to 0.6. Restated, that's between 2 and 6 multifamily homes to 1 single family in our city. And over the last 20 years, we've used trip generation as a major part of this, and that can be done according to the RCW. I don't have time to read the 2 green comments, except to say in recent stuff I've turned in, I've been advocating to add market rate housing. We're short of roughly 5,000 housing units over 20 years with a net effect of 1,250 single family homes. But I will read what's in red. The proposed blended rate impact methodology is critically flawed in my view. It gives a break to single family and charges more to multifamily. And the RCW wants to recognize the differential impact of different housing types, and that's not happening in the impact fee package. Appreciate the chance to speak. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Jillian, and then Denise.
Greetings. Jillian Wallace of the historic town of Inglewood. Yay trees, yay for sustainability, yay for our beautiful Pacific Northwest, and yay for community gathering season. And as we head outside to celebrate and enjoy our beautiful community, a word of caution. When coming up Inglewood Hill Road, as you approach our 5-point unmarked intersection, be aware of the double blind turns that encase our unsafe community entryway. The beautiful season is starting, and this previous year, we had an average of pedestrians getting bumped by cars every 2 weeks. That's not including the time our bus stop sign was hit at 9 a.m., which is when our bus stop would be full of kids if school hadn't been just released the week before. We have plenty of opportunity. In fact, just yesterday, I witnessed a pedestrian who was hit by a car. We have no signage, we have no lineage, no sidewalks, and we don't even have a crosswalk to get to safety. Hence why Inglewood has been identified under the Sidewalk Gap Project, which has been approved under Public Works budget last autumn. Which brings me to our beautiful new budgeting that finance that is absolutely rocking. I'm a big fan of Vicky's work. And to be clear, I have personally pulled a couple of organizations out of bankruptcy. I'm very much the proponent of usable is good enough. And personally, my favorite way to stretch a dollar is to using our crayons and not buying new ones until we have the stubs of the melted reforged crayons. I am good skipping new floors in our lobby. Not broken tiles are nice, but also not absolutely required, right? We can go for a few more years. Adobe Suite, absolutely amazing, right? Totally locks. However, funding the Sidewalk Gap Project and fixing our pothole-filled streets is more like buying crayons for the people who didn't have crayons to begin with. Redmond calls it a tale of two cities, and I call it the historic town of Inglewood. Older than Washington State, creating equity and accessibility for the have-nots is worth the spending. Augmenting an existing crosswalk or spending money on functioning facilities is closer to buying new crayons for those who already get to color. Finding unnecessary spending is the goal of the council, and however, please remember to fund what we actually do really need. And what is the point of, and at what point is it truly broken and it actually needs to be replaced? As Inglewood Sidewalk Gap will be going into design later this year, I urge everyone extra caution until we get there. Please slow down as you go up and around our double blinds. Please don't hug the dirt as you come up the hill. I know our car needs extra oomph to get up the hill, but please don't assume no one is there just because you can't see them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Denise, and then Julie Hahn.
Hello, thank you for your hard work every week that you're doing. I'm also excited you didn't approve the tiles, so I'll throw that in there. Happy Earth Day, or almost Earth Day tomorrow. In honor of that, I have my little tree earrings on, and I know many of us are feeling very sad about the clear cut in Issaquah about the new high school, but I understand Sammamish couldn't do a lot about that, so I want to mention 3 things that I think you can do something about. That would be wonderful. The Earth Day celebration on Saturday, I hope we can work on it being zero waste, if not this year, next year, where we have composting, same like in all of our city events. Number 2, I would love for the city to consider changing from Republic as our garbage service to Recology. If you haven't been there yet, I would encourage everyone to go to the Recology store in Gilman Village. It's in that little brick area in the front. It's delightful. They have a lot of gift ideas as well as refillable items. But more importantly, you can bring Thread Cycle, which is clothes and things you don't need anymore, to be recycled there free of charge. Sammamish residents can also, 1 bag a day. You can also bring electric items that don't work. It's a wonderful part of having Recology. Redmond now has Recology too. So we're sandwiched in between both cities. Included in the service is the store. And then also, get this, all apartments get free composting. Right now, not a single apartment complex in Sammamish can have composting through Republic because the apartment building has to be willing to pay for it. But in Issaquah, I've done some research and it's free for apartments and for businesses. Wow! Not only could we be considered a great tree city, we could have awesome composting for all of our residents, even those who can't afford a house. So I would love to have that equity happen and really consider Recology, even though it might be a little more expensive than Republic. I encourage you to look into it. Lastly, Number 3, in honor of all the trees that are left, I would stress a temporary tree moratorium on all heritage and landmark trees, while the city works to get the urban forest management plan up to date. I didn't even realize that there was one. So now that I know, I think it would be great to give us time to get up to date, because I know we're asking you to do a lot of work in a lot of areas. This is a great tool with goals that need to be addressed. We need to strengthen our tree protection codes. As much as we love the tree assessment study, which shows the canopy has increased by a measly 1.8%, it's dated 2023. So why are we releasing numbers from 3 years ago? We need an updated study on our trees. This is similar to doing a traffic study during COVID. We need the council to continue to take bold and meaningful action to protect the trees that are left in Sammamish, since that's the reason most of us moved here. Thank you and happy Earth Day. Go composting.
Thank you for your comments. Up next, we have Julie, and then if anyone else in the audience would like to give public comment, if you could line up by those chairs behind the podium, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Hello. I am Julie Hahn. I am the CEO of the Sammamish Chamber. I thought I'd drop by and just announce the farmers market's coming up. So I just wanted to give some information on what we've got planned for this year. The farmers market opens on May 6th. We're going to do a ribbon cutting ceremony at 4 p.m. We've invited the entire city council to join us, and we'll just kick things off and ring our cowbell, and we're super excited for this year. We've secured 60 vendors, and the market's going to be very, very full. I also secured 22 local business sponsors, so we've got a lot of community support for that. hang on, I got to put my glasses on here. We're going to have weekly entertainment. And we're going to have some special event days. So I just wanted to touch upon a few of them. On May 20th, we're going to have a youth business day. This is for kids 11 to 18, and they're going to be able to sell their handmade items. We are having a workshop this Saturday teaching those kids how to start a business. So we're super excited to have them learn what it takes to run a business and make a little bit of money. On June 7th, that's right, June 17th, in honor of the World Cup, we're going to do Soccer Fest. And one of the things that we're going to have is a signature scarf for Sammamish. So apparently these scarves are a big deal with soccer fans. They hold them up when they're at the games, and we're going to have our own Sammamish scarf. So we'll be selling those at the market, and we should have them available by mid-May. And I just want to thank the YMCA and the Sammamish Football Club. They're sponsoring that event with us. Lots of great kids' activities are going to take place that day. On July 1st, then we'll have a children's business fair. So these are for kids 7 to 11. We typically don't have kids quite that young that tend to sell items, but we did a special event day for them to help teach them how to run a business as well. And then on September 2nd, we're having a welcome week. So it's a cultural day, and we're planning that with the city. So we got some great things coming up. We hope you all attend. Last year, we had 50,000 people that came through the farmers market last year. So we hope to increase those numbers this year. And lastly, one more event I want to announce is we have a community block party on Tuesday, July 28th. It will be at the Sammamish Presbyterian Church parking lot. This is our third year. We'll have a band, food trucks, carnival games, a wine and beer garden. So we hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone else in the audience like to give public comment? Okay, do we have anyone online who has pre-registered for public comment?
We do, per the reasonable accommodation policy. If you have pre-registered and wish to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. You will have 3 minutes to provide comment. I will now promote the first commenter. One moment, please. You may begin when you're ready.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. This is Bo Rains, a 20-plus year Sammamish resident. I'm excited to hear tonight's presentation on Building 120. This phase of the assessment covers the site assessment, condition review, and renovation cost estimates, to name a few. But I'm really interested in the market assessment and how the building can respond to community needs and the economic and demographic context, all from the SOW. We can't tax ourselves to a balanced budget, so new revenue would be greatly appreciated for our city. I think the economics of a decision are very important. You know, what a project costs and what it can generate for the community in services and in revenue. And I can envision myself at cooking classes at Building 120 as a community center. Other speakers brought up the symphony. That would be cool. Quilting conferences and just other community center purposes. So hopefully we can complete phase one and see these activities in the contract specified market assessment, and then bring these benefits to our community as we go through the future phases. Thank you and good night.
Thank you for your comments.
We have one more public commenter. One moment while I promote them. Whenever you're ready. You're still on mute if you're speaking. If you could please unmute yourself and I will start the time.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Good evening, Heather Murphy-Raines, 20-year resident. Tonight's agenda highlights something we see far too often. Strong words about sustainability that in the past have been followed by decisions that sometimes feel like council is moving in the opposite direction. Arbor Day, Earth Day declarations are easy. What is hard is governance that makes a real difference consistently with those values. And that starts with council behavior. I'm asking for basic decorum and enforcement of your own rules. When one council member consumes a disproportionate amount of time during questioning, it is neither efficient nor equitable. At your last meeting, Council Member Pam Stewart spoke for over 47 minutes while formally recognized. That is nearly twice as much as the deputy mayor and roughly 3 times as much as the mayor. At times it came across as filibustering, lecturing, and using clear debate during question rounds and included interruptions. That is not balance. That's the domination of process, and process matters because outcomes follow process. Now let's talk substance. If you are serious about environmental stewardship, then lead the way. Spend the money to strengthen critical area ordinances to actually protect wildlife corridors, not just acknowledge them. Specify species of local importance, all essential for habitat, water quality, and long-term ecological health. Adopt tree and wildlife corridor moratoriums until your comprehensive plan and development code are aligned. Continuing development and fragmentation of habitat while that misalignment exists is not defensible. I also urge you to review tree canopy studies with real scrutiny. Much like prior traffic studies, many appear to rely on older data from the COVID period. That risks overstating current canopy conditions, especially given the pace of development across the city. While you're at it, update the flawed traffic model using current 2026 traffic counts. Conditions have changed and planning on outdated assumptions only compounds the problem. Now turning to impact fees, I have one simple question. Will this council ensure that developers and growth finally pays for its full impact, or will residents continue to subsidize it? If impact fees fall short, the difference shows up in regressive taxes, rising utility costs, and continued pressure on families and seniors. We are already operating in a deficit environment. Continuing to spend while shifting costs on residents is not financially sustainable. Accountability does not stop with the council. The city manager must take clear ownership of outcomes and return to office 5 days a week. Leadership requires presence, visibility, and accountability when things are missed. When Building 120 was brought forward, phase 1 was supposed to include a market assessment from consultants. I don't see that reflected in the agenda materials. I'm not sure if it was missed or if the packet is incomplete. When a site that is already cleared and ready for community use lacks clear analysis or follow through on promised deliverables, that is a leadership gap. If executive leadership were fully present and accountable, opportunities like that do not slip through the cracks. Building 120 should be an obvious win, a senior center for residents to age in place, a garage-style teen center, and a community thrift shop. Use that to serve residents and generate revenue to offset operating costs. That is responsible community-first planning. For now is the time we need bold, meaningful action to protect
Thank you for your comments. Do we have anyone else online?
That is all of our public commenters. I turn it back to you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next we have approval of the consent calendar. Before we go to that, I just want to note that item number 7 had previously been listed on the full agenda. And during the meeting about this meeting, we decided to move it to the consent calendar. Of course, any council member can pull it if they would like, and I believe the staff are ready to talk about that if necessary. But I just want to give an explanation for the reason for the move. So we've got a packed meeting. That's the only reason why. The only reason why. Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
It's been moved and?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right. We now have, we'll be doing 2 proclamations, and then we'll be inviting our sustainability commissioners in attendance to please come up and accept them. Up first, we'll have Deputy Mayor reading the Arbor Day proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, And whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling cost, moderating our temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they're planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, our Mayor Josh Amato, as Mayor of the City of Sammamish, proclaims April 24th, 2026 Arbor Day.
Thank you very much. And Councilmember O'Farrell, will you please read the Earth Day proclamation?
Of course. Earth Day. Whereas Earth Day is an opportunity to celebrate Sammamish's natural environment and educate the community about the importance of collective climate action, and whereas the goal theme of Earth Day 2026 is Our Power, Our Planet, a call to advocate for widespread awareness on the benefits of renewable energy, decrease reliance on fossil fuels, and promote energy efficiency. And whereas the City of Sammamish is committed to promoting and supporting actions that improve sustainability, conserve natural resources, create a healthier environment, and make a positive impact in celebration of Earth Day. And whereas on Earth Day and every day, community members are encouraged to participate in efforts to reduce carbon emissions from energy and transportation, improve recycling, and care for the natural environment. Now, therefore, Josh Amato, Mayor of the City of Sammamish, hereby proclaim April 22nd, 2026 as Earth Day in the City of Sammamish, and encourage all residents to get involved with sustainability programs and climate action in the city.
Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to pause for a moment and get a couple of photos. If our sustainability commissioners could please come forward to accept the proclamations. And council will line up in front of the flags here. Okay, Rose, before we begin, I'm going to make a couple of comments here. So I hope the council will take what I'm about to say in the spirit it's intended. We had a very long meeting last week, and I know no one wants a repeat of an 11:30. So I'm just going to clarify how I'm going to be applying the council rules. And if anyone has any issues with those, we can, of course, address that. And then as meetings go on, we can make tweaks so that all council members feel good about this. So if staff has an informational presentation and there are questions from the council, I will take them one at a time and ask council members to limit their time to clarifying questions only. According to our rules, these rounds are not to exceed 30 minutes, giving each council member 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Staff response times will be included in the council members' times. However, these rounds are unlimited, so all your questions can be answered. But please limit your time to questions only. If staff is seeking council feedback or opinions in order to bring back a proposal, I'll treat those as question rounds. So please limit your responses to clarifying staff requests and or providing requested feedback. Again, these rounds are unlimited, but each speaking slot is limited to 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Once a motion is on the floor, a council member may speak to their motion and we'll open question rounds, which are unlimited. Council members are limited to 4 minutes and 30 seconds each for questions only. The council members may ask the maker of the motion a clarifying question through the chair, and the chair will ask the maker of the motion if they would like to respond. Again, these rounds are unlimited. Please limit your time to questions only. Responses to questions will be counted in council member time. After all questions are exhausted, we'll move to debate rounds. Because a motion is on the floor, we'll move to debate rounds, which are limited to 2 rounds. Council member time will be limited to 5 minutes for each round. This is the point at which you may state your position on an issue and your reason for voting a certain way. Keeping track of all this time is very challenging. I ask for some grace as we go through this. I've asked the deputy mayor for help. She's going to be keeping track of not only time, but who has gone, because I will invariably forget throughout this meeting. This is a packed meeting. I thought this was an opportune time to give this a shot. I just want to give the council a chance. Are there any concerns with what I've raised here tonight? Councilmember Stewart.
Just one clarifying question. Sometimes motions are made before we have a chance to do question rounds. So if we're going to have the limitation, can we make sure we get to ask questions before the motions are made?
Yes, so according to our council rules, the question rounds are unlimited. So if there is a motion made, we just go right into question rounds, so we could end up with 50 rounds of questions. Your time during those questions are 4 minutes and 30 seconds before we move to the debate rounds. So
Okay.
at that point, when everyone's exhausted their questions, I'll then state that we'll move on to the debate round. And from that point on, then we're limited to 2, and then we must make the vote.
And I do appreciate that. Unfortunately, once a motion is made, then things are supposed to be limited to the scope of the motion. So I'm just asking that we could, when there's a presentation, that we could have at least 1 or 2 rounds of questions before we're limited to just the scope of an individual motion.
It's a fair question to ask of other council members. I'm sure everyone heard. So, of course, we'll do our best to accommodate that. I will point to our council rules here that I know Robert's rules would want you to require that you stick to the point of the motion. Our rules simply state that it's a question round, so you are free to ask questions. And if someone wants to raise a point of order at that point, I suppose I will make a ruling on that. But thank you. Any other concerns, questions? Councilmember Lamb.
So you're saying there's basically unlimited rounds, like we can just keep going asking questions and have the debate. So what happens when somebody calls the question? I mean, that technically isn't unlimited then.
Yeah, at that point, a call for the question would require a vote with a majority 5-2. If there's not a 5-2 majority to actually vote on the question, then we will continue on with debate. If we do end up with 5 votes in favor of voting on the motion, then at that point, that does end debate and our question rounds are over.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other clarifying questions? Councilmember O'Farrell.
Only just, I heard everything you said, but it went right out of my head at the same time. So I'm just going to need you to prompt me if I'm rattling on too long. Okay.
Yes, I will do my best. And at the start of it, I will remind council of the 4 minutes and 30
Because I'm fairly sure I've
seconds
forgotten everything
versus
you
5.
said. So, okay.
I will also email this to the council after the fact. Thank you, everybody. Okay, you may begin. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Amato. For those of you that I have not met yet, my name is Rose Weicker, and I am the Natural Resource and Environmental Sustainability Coordinator here with the City of Sammamish. I'm very excited to share an update on all of the great programs that we have going on from last year and through the first couple months of this year as well. We thought this was very pertinent timing with it being Earth Month and having the Earth Day celebration this coming Saturday. As Mayor Amato said, if there's questions, please feel free to stop me and let me know, and we'll just get right onto it. Thank you. First time using the new clicker. All right. So the city's sustainability program encompasses 2 plans, that being the Climate Action Plan and the Urban Forest Management Plan. I work with our Sustainability Commission to implement both of these plans, and we meet about once a month. So you met a couple sustainability commissioners earlier today, and as we're walking through the presentation today, I'll make sure to revisit each of the plans as they are appropriate and connected to the work plan. So this is just giving an overview of the sustainability program in general, implemented by me, and then recognizing that a lot of this work is also being done by our different departments. So I sit in the city manager's office so that I can work across departments to ensure that these plans are completed in a timely manner with the available staffing that we have. So just keeping this at a high level for starters, why climate action? As a city government, we are responsible for our community and environmental well-being, and then we also have some legislature that helps guide the community's planning, so in the comprehensive plan. For example, House Bill 1181 was passed in the summer of 2023, and this bill introduced a new climate change element to the comprehensive plan. This includes a requirement for greenhouse gas emissions reduction and a resiliency sub-element. These elements are mandatory for Sammamish with an implementation deadline of 2029. Previous council direction was to meet these requirements in the most recent comprehensive plan update. So along with some of our neighboring cities, Sammamish did implement this greenhouse gas emissions reduction and resiliency element under the climate element of the comprehensive plan. In addition to these planning elements, the city also set some ambitious climate goals, which were adopted under the King County Climate Collaborative, or K4C, joint commitments. So Sammamish's emissions reductions and vehicle miles traveled goals are in line with our neighboring cities and the county as a whole. So just a brief reminder about this biennium's work plan. In addition to these items, I also sit on a number of regional committees and partnerships to advance climate action and environmental policy across the county. So we work with our neighboring cities and the county to ensure that programs are consistent and resources are available throughout cities. I do want to acknowledge the additional funds to support sustainability that Council had allocated in the 2025-26 budget. These one-time funds were initially allocated to a green building incentive program. However, that is on pause as we reevaluate the town center effort. So we are working with the Sustainability Commission at a future meeting on a formal recommendation that will be brought to Council at a later date for the use of these funds. All right, so the way this presentation today is going to work is I'm going to kind of walk through each of those work plan items that we had seen, just provide an update, some program highlights, and then answer any questions that you may have. Starting with Energy Smart Eastside. So Energy Smart Eastside is a residential energy efficiency program that was founded in 2022 by the East Side Climate Partnership, which is a 6-city climate collaboration. It's a formal interlocal agreement, and this is operated by the cities of Bellevue, Issaquah, Kirkland, Redmond, Mercer Island, and Sammamish. So these 6 cities partner on initiatives such as Energy Smart Eastside. And Energy Smart Eastside drives equitable home electrification with an emphasis on heat pumps. Heat pumps reduce heating-related greenhouse gas emissions 91% relative to a gas furnace, and also support community climate resilience. So adoption of heat pump systems is a key strategy for meeting those greenhouse gas emissions targets that were previously mentioned. I do want to note that approximately 2/3 of funding this recent biennium was sourced from state and utility grants. So this is funded partly by cities, and about 2/3 was sourced from grants to run this program. Over 80% of expenses for this program did go directly to heat pump and other electrification incentives for residents. Energy Smart Eastside is expanding to include resources for renters and also emphasize weatherization resources available for folks where heat pumps may not be a great option for them. All right, you may have received the Sustainable Sammamish Guide. In fact, you should have received the Sustainable Sammamish Guide because this is a resource that is sent out annually to every household in Sammamish. We aim for a September timeframe to align with the start of school and kind of provide that resource for folks. And this is really a one-stop shop and a centralized resource for residents to support climate action and environmental stewardship. So it includes resources and information that span all sectors of the climate action plan, as well as some sectors in the urban forest management as well. For example, how to plant a tree, as well as links and resources via QR code to get more information or qualify for certain incentive programs and tax credits. The Sustainability Commission is a key partner in getting this work done. You'll see a quote here from our Sustainability Commission chair from last year, really just partnering with them on what resources would be most relevant to residents, the voice that would be impactful for folks to hear from, and what resources they may feel that they're lacking that they think more folks should know about. So this resource is not only mailed out to every home, it is also available at events throughout the year, and there's a digital copy available on the city's website as well. And I just want to note that the Sustainable Sammamish Guide is really one part of our overall communication strategy that also includes social media outreach, the every other month newsletters, as well as targeted community outreach to HOA groups, and then the events that I had mentioned. All right, moving right along. Green Power is a program through Puget Sound Energy that matches up to 100% of electricity use with renewable energy like wind and solar from the Pacific Northwest. Essentially, Puget Sound Energy purchases renewable energy from independent resources on the city's behalf. This is a really easy and low-cost way for us to reduce our environmental impact while also growing demand for more renewable energy. The city took the first step in 2025 by enrolling all of our city facilities. Previously, we were at the minimum enrollment level and we wanted to offset 100% of our electricity consumption. So we did that in 2025, which is really wonderful. And then this year, we are partnering with residents to encourage green power enrollment to further our climate action plan goals, partnering with Puget Sound Energy with a goal of 100 enrollments. And if we reach this goal, we receive $10,000 towards a new community solar array. We're really excited about this work, and we'll be sharing more information with residents at Earth Day if folks have additional questions. Please come learn more and help us reach our goals. All right, so some of you may have gone to the recycling events that we just held on April 4th and April 11th, but for those of you who may not be aware, the city does hold 5 annual recycling events each year, 2 in the spring, 1 in the summer, which is usually a smaller event, and then 2 in the fall. These are really great resources for residents to recycle hard to recycle materials such as electronics, large pieces of wood, styrofoam, etc. These are in partnership with the city of Issaquah, so I do want to note that the metrics here are for 2 cities, both Sammamish and Issaquah. And then in 2025, we started a new initiative with King County, which is a community repair event. They hold these across the county, and we were very grateful that they chose Sammamish as one of their locations. And this was so successful that they agreed to partner with us this year on an additional repair event. So we're hoping to make this an annual event for folks to come repair items and keep some of those out of the landfill and support a circular economy. I'll get a little bit more into these waste reduction programs and partnerships as we move forward in this presentation. Okay, so this is the big one. In addition to all of these work plan items, we have this work plan item, Climate Action Plan Implementation. And under the Climate Action Plan Implementation, we worked with the Sustainability Commission to understand which actions in the Climate Action Plan should be prioritized. So within the Climate Action Plan, there are 72 total actions, which cannot all be accomplished at once. And so with the Commission, we worked with them to prioritize and identify which actions might be kind of the not only low-hanging fruit, but also the biggest bang for our buck, and where the community might benefit from additional education and resources and incentive programs as well. So just looking at the big picture here, we did get an updated greenhouse gas emissions inventory from King County through the K4C, the King County Climate Collaborative. And this is great because the initial data that we had was from 2019 that informed the adoption of the Climate Action Plan. So actually seeing where we've come from 2019 to 2023 is a great snapshot in time, and Sammamish has seen a 12% reduction in our overall greenhouse gas emissions, which is really wonderful and should be celebrated. And remembering that our climate action plan was passed in 2023, this is really just an update as to where we are, where we started before climate action plan implementation. A lot of that reduction is due to, technological improvements, electrification, EV adoption, and so to continue to see the decrease in emissions that we would like to see to reach our goals, we do need residential partnership, and we need to continue these programs. A little bit more detail on each of the sections of the Climate Action Plan with the support of the Sustainability Commission. This is not all-encompassing, but these are really just some of the key programs that we wanted to highlight under each of the Climate Action Plan topics. Like I mentioned, the Sustainability Commission helped me prioritize this, really focusing on buildings and energy as those two sectors you'll see here. Electricity, natural gas, those both go into energy, and then on-road vehicles, transportation is the majority of emissions in Sammamish. So that's really where we're focused with some of these programs. For example, Solarize, which was under the East Side Climate Partnership, which I had mentioned previously. Community education, you'll see that continuing across each of these, recognizing that to get resident partnership, we really need to be able to educate and provide those resources for residents. We call it changing hearts and minds. That's really the mantra of the Sustainability Commission. We're really focused on that behavior change and education for folks. Also, just a little bit here on transportation, recognizing that Sammamish is not as well served by public transportation as some of our neighbors. We're really focused on connecting folks with the resources and programs that are available to the Sammamish community, specifically MetroFlex and Community Van that really fill that first mile, last mile connection. And for those of you that may not be aware, MetroFlex recently expanded their service area to include the Issaquah Highlands. So for those of you that are within the service area or near enough to be able to utilize this program, that will open up more resources and access to Sammamish residents for healthcare, shopping, resources, and open up Highland residents to connect into Issaquah and Sammamish as well. May, we have Bike Everywhere Day coming up, so I will be tabling along the East Lake Sammamish Trail and hope to see some of you out there celebrating. All right, moving right along. So the Green Purchasing Guide was another work plan item. This is really a tool for staff to use. So it was designed as a helpful resource to be more intentional with city purchases. So some examples from departments of purchases that were made using the Green Purchasing Guide. This was a new tool that was piloted, so there was some back and forth education with folks, and then we have an FAQ document and some examples, but rechargeable battery packs and tools, reusable decorations and event materials, compostable plates, cups. Some of this was work that was already being done and items that were already purchased, but this has now gone across all departments so that any purchaser within a department is making a more sustainable, both environmentally sustainable and a lot of times fiscally sustainable decisions as well, and utilizing these outside resources. We also shared this with the school districts and sustainability ambassadors, so they have this as a resource as well. So we're not just doing this internally, but we're also partnering with our external stakeholders to provide these resources for our community. All right, and I had already mentioned the East Side Climate Partnership Interlocal Agreement, but given that it is its own work plan line, I also wanted to highlight some of the great programs that are happening under this partnership. So we already touched on Energy Smart East Side, and I briefly touched on Solarize, but we also have some exciting programs coming up, including a tree giveaway with City of Issaquah in November of this year. So you'll start seeing some communications going out about that in mid to late summer, and we'll be doing some targeted outreach to communities that might have lower canopy data scores based on some regional mapping that was done. We are also partnering with City of Issaquah on a reusable and compostable serviceware program. So this will be for all food service providers in Issaquah and Sammamish. This was a shared grant, and we're starting that work now with implementation planned for 2027 to really provide that support for businesses. All right. I am very excited to share that we had a recent tree canopy assessment done with the King Conservation District, and it shows that Sammamish's tree canopy is growing. So we are moving in the right direction as a city, recognizing that this is 2023 data. So as folks mentioned, this is the best available data that we have at this moment, and as more data becomes available, we will update accordingly. But Sammamish does have one of the densest canopies in the county. So at 54%, we are above our neighbors, and we are continuing to grow. So that's really great. What this fact sheet does show is the opportunity for canopy growth in residential areas. So going back to the importance of partnering with residents and community education, and this is part of the reason that we are partnering with Issaquah on that tree giveaway in November. As I mentioned, we'll continue to update this information in the city website as more data becomes available. And even though the UFMP is in need of an update, I just want to give a quick shout out to staff that there is really great work being done. Just because the document itself could use a little bit of updating does not mean that this work is not happening. Our parks, public works, and restoration staff work hard across all departments to take care of the city's trees and natural areas. So that work is being done, and we really want to update the urban forest management plan to reflect the work that's done and the capacity that we have with the updated data that we have as well. So, for example, some of the work that has been done is Tree City certification. Sammamish was first recognized as a Tree City in 2024. We did receive recognition in 2025, and we are working towards a third year of recognition in 2026. Okay, and back to the Sustainability Commission. So these commissioners, I really cannot say enough good things about them. We have two in the room here tonight, but we've had commissioners come to many of our outreach events. You've likely seen them helping me table with the sustainability wheel that was actually built by one of our commissioners using a downed tree from the bomb cyclone. And these folks are really walking the walk, talking the talk, and helping to educate the community. Not only are they out there doing outreach, but they're also providing recommendations on sustainability projects and programs, receiving education from our partners at Puget Sound Energy. We took a tour of the Republic Services Materials Recovery Facility last November so that the commissioners could understand more about the recycling process and have those hands-on conversations with residents at events. And in addition to these tabling opportunities, myself and restoration specialist Sebastian go to numerous community events, either as invited or as we hear about them through our regional partnerships. So there's lots of outreach also scheduled for 2026. You likely already saw us at Lunar New Year. We do plan to attend Klahani Days in July, and then right before our Earth Day celebration on Saturday, I will be going to the Lake Washington School District PTA Sustainability Fair. So we're really trying to meet the community where the community is at, but also get into some of those spaces, for example, HOA presentations, to really ensure that the messages that we're trying to get are going to the right folks. And then we've also had a number of commissioners reach out to the Sammamish Independent for op-eds. So we're trying all different avenues to get them out there, and they're a really wonderful group. So come say hi at Earth Day on Saturday and at farmers markets throughout the summer. In addition to the commission, we also are working with a student group called Sustainability Ambassadors. So I recognize a couple of our council members had come to our Sustainability Ambassadors Town Hall at Skyline. And Sustainability Ambassadors recruit, train, and manage student interns and provide coaching and support for Sammamish middle and high school students and educators. This includes developing a range of impact projects and curriculum materials to advance Sammamish's sustainability targets by supporting teachers to produce locally relevant curriculum pathways. Sustainability ambassadors also help to align academic requirements in the classroom with city policy, plans, and programs. The city also benefits from the surge in outreach and youthful energy to drive greenhouse gas emissions targets. As I mentioned earlier, the majority of Sammamish emissions do come from single-family homes, so having this group of students help amplify our programs and community resources to help change hearts and minds is a really powerful tool for the city to leverage. It's one thing to hear it from a staff member or a commissioner, but it's something else to hear it from your neighbor or your child. That's a really powerful motivator for folks, and because of the success of this program, we will be looking for a recommendation from the commission on whether to move forward with another contract for this next school year. Sustainability ambassadors will also be at Earth Day on April 25th. They'll have their own table. So I highly encourage folks to stop by, say hi, learn more about the programs and the student impact projects that they're putting together. A good example of something they put together for us is the Sammamish Transit Bingo you see here. All right, and finally, there was a recent right-of-way tree study that provided the city with updated data on the condition of city-managed street trees. So this right-of-way tree inventory is different from the canopy assessment. It really looked at an individual tree species level versus an overall canopy cover. And the consultant for the right-of-way code and public works standard update will be using the right-of-way tree study as a reference document when going through our existing standards for the update. And with the citywide canopy assessment and this street tree inventory, those GIS files and findings can be used to inform the urban forest management plan update. All right, thank you for your time today. I truly appreciate the opportunity to share more about the sustainability program and the great work that's being done. If there are additional questions, now is the time, or if you think of something following the meeting today, please don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, thank you very much. Excellent work on that presentation and report to us. Council, is there any questions? Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, I know there's been a bit of debate about how frequently should we be updating our tree canopy assessment. Just what is the sort of industry standard on that?
Yeah, I actually did reach out to the King Conservation District kind of liaison that we were working with, and they had responded letting us know that they typically recommend a 5 to 7 year cadence with the complexity of the work that's done with the GIS teams, the cost, and then actually being able to see that canopy percentage change over time. So the canopy assessment that we had done with King Conservation District gave the city 2017 data and 2023 data. So while I recognize that is, about 3 years old at this point, you're really going to see the change in canopy at that kind of 5 years cadence. That being said, if there is will, King Conservation District does contract with multiple cities. So if Sammamish did want to get an updated canopy on a yearly or 2 year or 3 year basis, that is definitely something that we could look into.
How did Sammamish do? It says here that we increased our canopy by 2% since 2017 and added 153 acres of canopy between 2017 and 2023. How does that compare to around the region?
I would have to get back to you on that. I do know that we are a bit of an anomaly with the canopy growth. There are a number of cities that have seen canopy decrease. Mercer Island, for example, I think saw a 0.1% increase in their canopy over time. So I could definitely get you those averages. But as far as Sammamish sits compared to our neighbors, we do have one of the highest tree canopies, and we are one of only a couple cities that has actually seen canopy growth over that time.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. On the pie chart slide, you have percentages. Can we get some numbers around those percentages so that people can see how many metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions we're producing from those various types? I think that would be impactful, not just to see percent of where they come from, but also to be reminded how much we produce, especially from our single-family homes. And then there was no mention of all of the state laws and how we set our targets, because as I understand it, there were several state laws and an executive order that came out that helped inform what our vehicle miles traveled and our greenhouse gas reduction targets were to be in line with those state laws. So it would just be helpful as we share it out with the community so that they know where those numbers came from.
Thank you, Councilmember Stewart.
You did, thank you. And it was 4 minutes and 30 seconds. I promised I'd remind everyone, but I failed to do that. Any other council member? Councilmember Lamb.
So you mentioned an increase in canopy. Do we know what that was the result of? Like regulations or like how?
I can speak kind of high level to that, but I would like to circle back with you. I believe with canopy assessments, they're looking at overall like leaf area. So when trees mature, their canopy size increases. So with old growth trees, especially, and for a city that is as forested as Sammamish, with as much tree cover as we have, as those trees continue to grow, the canopy cover increases.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to, this is a comment actually, on the reusable serveware for food establishments. So I'm really happy about that. So for everybody that's here, that is an initiative that the city is doing in partnership with Issaquah, so that food establishments in both cities are using reusable serveware in their restaurants and compostable if for takeout. And initially that just started with Sammamish, but then Issaquah partnered with us, and I was speaking with a Redmond City Council member who is also interested in taking part in this, not like with us, but doing their own study as well, and wanting to implement that ordinance into their city, which I think is pretty amazing to have 3 cities all like participating in something like this. And that is basically, this ordinance is also is modeled after Shoreline. And so I guess my comment is really to my fellow council members that it's really important to keep on talking with our colleagues in other cities, because we learn so much from them. We don't know what they may be doing. They may not know what we're doing. So it's just important that, you know, we have those conversations so that we can implement things and have new ideas.
Thank you, Councilmember Lamb.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, I've got a couple. The furnace replacements, I'm wondering if we have an idea of what the volume might look like based on prior permit history. I don't expect you to have that in front of you or have been at all prepared. I'm just curious if that's a way we're looking at the targetable market for heat pumps and reaching out to people.
Short answer, yes. Okay. We do track the permit data in-house, and then our partnership with the other East Side cities is looking at those trends overall across cities and then across the market in general.
Okay, thank you. I think this is close to what Councilmember Lamb was asking, but I'm not. It said 153 acres of canopy gained. Is that an acre impacted by increased canopy, or are we looking at the map and determining the aerial and determining that 153 acres of coverage in total was gained from that?
The second one. So
Okay.
we're looking at overall coverage. We're not looking at an individual tree basis, but you know, younger trees that are planted are included in that canopy cover. So we're also looking at impervious area and then potential plantable space. So you'll see on that tree canopy assessment fact sheet, there's also some metrics around plantable space in residential and non-residential zones.
Okay. And then what benefits does Sammamish get from being labeled a tree city?
Tree City has some resources available in terms of education, recognition. There's some funding available for like reimbursement for Arbor Day events, for example, but it's really just a recognition and education program to celebrate the great work that's being done.
So on the reimbursement for Arbor Day, does our Earth Day event on Saturday fall into that mix or no?
No, typically that's for under-resourced cities that do not have existing programs.
We don't count for that. Okay.
There are small reimbursements that we could get, but yeah.
All right. Thank you. That's all of my questions. Any other council members have any questions? Okay, I don't see any more lights lit up. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a presentation on the Building 120 feasibility assessment and community use planning. We'll give our team a few moments to get ready.
Good evening, Mayor Ramato, City Council, Mr. City Manager. I'm Anjali Maya, Director of Parks and Recreation. We have a presentation for you on the Phase 1 work for Building 120's feasibility assessment. I'm joined this evening by our consultants from Opsis Architecture, Chris Roberts, Principal, and Randall Heeb, Associate Principal, and Lacey Lewis, who is a Supervising Management Analyst with the city. You do have a full agenda tonight, but just sharing it out there that if we get through the presentation and your questions in a timely manner, and Council is comfortable authorizing staff to proceed with Phase 2 for the project, then we'd really love to kick it off with hearing from all of you tonight, very briefly, even if it's one round, of what you would like to see take place at Building 120. And then, of course, we'd welcome any follow-up comments via email after tonight. So with that, I will turn it over to Randall and Chris for the presentation.
Mayor Amato, council members, it's a pleasure to be here tonight, and super excited to kind of show the work we've been doing over the last couple months. And I think we take a real serious look at community spaces and how they can increase the value of the place we live. And so this is just the first phase, as you all know, and we're kind of looking for what the next steps might be. But I'm going to have Randall here kind of kick us off, and we'll kind of take a look at what we've been discovering and what our recommendations are.
Very happy to be here. Opsis Architecture has performed a number of rec centers, community centers, athletic centers, so we're very familiar with this project type. And we represent a bigger team. So we have structural engineer, civil engineer, landscape architect, we have mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, and some cost estimators. So big team behind us that aren't all here today. So I want to start off just saying kind of what we're going to go through. We are imagining talking for about 15 minutes, just kind of laying out where we are, and then we'll be open for your questions. We're going to talk about the background of this project. We're going to go through some of the existing conditions, limitations of the project. We'll mention the cost as we see it, and then make a recommendation and go through next steps. So the Building 120 was constructed in 2008 by the Evergreen Christian Fellowship. What's important about this is that it was part of a larger development, only part of which was constructed. So you have about a 60,000 square foot building, but there was another building next to it imagined. And some improvements were implemented to make that happen. Another important factor is this was under the 2008 code. We have had many versions of the building code since then, but it is important that the 2008 is not a huge departure from current code. So some numbers will have changed a little bit, and it's important to map those. But should the building be used as it is being used, or as it was permitted, that it is a largely code compliant building. The city purchased the facility in 2015, and you've been using it as a leased space to Central Washington University until recently. You've also had some city folks using it for a variety of reasons. In 2022, you hired Meng to do a facility condition assessment. This is really an assessment that's looking at the building just as it is. OPSIS kind of went over that same material, but we're also doing a functional analysis. How does it work for the program that's in it and for future programs? As we've stated, we're in phase 1, the building and site evaluation. Phase 2, community engagement, would include the market assessment that has been mentioned. We have done just a little bit of work on that market assessment so that we could plan for the community engagement should you release us to move forward. We were asked to be very careful with our dollars and not to get ahead, so that if you, for any reason, decided not to move forward, that we didn't spend any more of your money than we needed to, and we're really looking for your direction on how to move forward. We recognize this is a really great site for the city. It's fairly centrally located. It's off of 228th. Which is, right, easy for almost everybody to get to. You're surrounded, all these red dots are the schools, and it really shows how many community members are very much in this part of town on a daily basis. We've also, in blue, highlighted some of the city facilities where we are now: Farmers Market, the Community and Aquatics, YMCA, the library, and then just north of us, the Teen Center. So it's a really great location. When we look at the existing site, it's about 24 acres, and it's about a 20,000 square foot footprint. Even though we say the building is larger, the footprint is not that large. About 28,000 square feet of paving, plenty of parking, good access to the local roads, good sidewalks, very easy for folks to get to. But what's important about this site is that about 44% of it are designated wetlands, and that means that it's 24 acres, not all of which can be constructed on. As I said, the previous church had imagined being larger, so they installed a stormwater vault that's off to the northwest corner of the site, and that helps for the quantity of stormwater runoff, and it slows it before letting it go into the local waterways. That's important. There are no nature paths right now. And it has good bus access. That's always something we look at. How easy is this to get to? So you've got lots of parking, you have buses, you have sidewalks. There are a variety of ways for people of all ages to get to the site.
Just wanted to orient everybody here, sorry. If you're looking north is to your left in this drawing, so we've kind of tilted the drawing over. So the main entries, those two doors you see on the bottom. And so just from a programmatic standpoint, number 5 there, the lobby is a central lobby space, and then you've basically divided the building into two halves. You've got a north and a south half. The south half is a more active space, so that's your multi-purpose gym. You've got restrooms that also have small shower and locker areas. There is a raised stage area in the center, as well as a kitchen. The kitchen, it doesn't have currently any equipment in it, but it's the space has been dedicated for that. And as we look at some deficiencies, like one of the things that the current code would require would be like a grease trap, which doesn't currently exist there, would need to be added, which then might bring in another question if that's the right place for the kitchen, if you're going to start making investments. And so, again, well, I'll hold that stuff off for phase 2, but some of the things we've been thinking about, the meeting room is basically a bunch of file storage right now, and so underutilized space. And then as you get to the northern half, you've got a lot of offices that have been used, everything from Issaquah coming in and having recruitment fairs with firefighters, and to our first meeting we kicked off over there. You've got some ADA non-compliant ADA restrooms on that side. So these are some of the things that we were looking at and pricing in this area. But in general, the spaces are fine. The gym's a great space. I think it's just showing some age and in terms of like looking at surfaces. We were just talking about sustainability. You've got some great windows in there that are all covered up, and so I think there are things that can be done to minimal investment to really maximize the value of the property for y'all. But again, we'll kind of look at that later. And then go into the next level. As you come up to the next level, you got some, I must say, very interesting classroom space there. I've been doing this for a while, and this is the first, so congratulations. And so, but it's a great space. You've got these wonderful windows that look out, into the wetlands. It's just a very odd shape, which makes programming somewhat difficult. It really limits the ability of what that space can do. Again, where the floors are located, that's kind of just like open space. It's great, it's fantastic, but it's hard to use, hard to kind of program that kind of area. And so those are some of the things that are rolling around in our heads as we're thinking about opportunities down the line, but wanted to make sure we're identifying kind of the upgrades that need to be made to those spaces just to get them functioning at as they should be at the current level without a major investment. Then you've got this bridge that kind of goes over. Sorry. Go back one more time. I'll go. And a couple meeting rooms on that side, restroom, and a storage / meeting room area. And so we can go then now to the next slide. There, I'll take these. And then we're looking at the exterior of the building. Some of these really aren't cosmetic issues. I mean, they might look at firsthand that these are cosmetic, but as you've seen, like these caulking that's deteriorating, those are areas of water infiltration. So it's one of these things where it's going to start causing some major issues down the line. Some of these were identified earlier; they haven't been addressed. Until they are addressed, they're going to be a lingering problem and risk for the city as it moves forward. Same with the flashing. It's not just that the flashing doesn't look good because it's kind of fallen down. It's actually exposing the wood underneath. And so you've got structural systems now that are being, they haven't deteriorated yet, but they are in a condition where they can be compromised. And then so identified, I think, re-identified that you still have some rusting issues with some rebar. Again, not a structural failure at this point, but it's one of those things that needs to be addressed sooner than later, or it's going to become a much more larger issue, as well as some of the damage that's done to the insulation system, we would call it EFIS, on the outside of the building, where you're beginning to see some deterioration there, and the matting that's being exposed, which is going to eventually lead to rot and decay. Then go to the next one here. Then looking at the interior spaces, again, they're nice spaces, but there's a lot of damaged tiles. You'll see a lot of old LEDs in there, light fixtures, excuse me. Old fluorescent light fixtures, excuse me, where we'd be like current in any project we're doing now is looking at an LED fixture, which is going to reduce your energy costs and overall spending on operations down the line, which kind of ties in also to the fact that we're kind of covering up like the windows in the gym, and if those were exposed, you would need to have the lights on, and so there's some real cost benefits with some small updates that could be made. You're seeing the pictures of the kitchen. You've got a stage there that's kind of multi-purpose, can be used for anything. You do have a lift, but it's really not code compliant as far as ADA accessibility. And then again, I've kind of talked about the unique triangular shaped rooms in the space. And again, the plane, so you got a great plane surface in there, or you got the space for a great plane surface. The surface itself is fairly worn, so not ideal for the activities, particularly on knees and things like that. So if it were to maintain itself as an active room for whether it be tennis, pickleball, basketball, one of the recommendations would be to kind of put a new floor in there. So this is just, again, kind of the overall things that some of the things that we've identified will be reflected in the costs we look at. And just some simple things along the way, if we're talking about like either replacing the acoustic ceiling tiles or walls, so like in some instances where you've got the bridge there. There's some just security issues with dark spaces, hidden corners that could be addressed pretty simply if you were to move forward, but would make it a much safer place without any dark corners or anything like that.
So we want to look at the site and some of the issues required there. And again, most of these were identified in the Meng analysis as well. So most of the problems remain. There are some broken curbs that need to be repaired. The pavement itself needs to be restriped. It needs to have some sealing in certain areas. We figured about 5 years before that really just has to happen, or you're going to get deterioration. There are a number of intersections where the radius of the road needs to be increased. It's leading to broken curbs because the trucks can't make those turns. That water vault, we didn't get into it. It probably needs servicing at some level. The split rail fence needs to be repaired, and that's, while that sounds like just a cosmetic issue, it's actually a condition of approval from the previous development because it keeps pedestrians from wandering into the wetlands. So that's a condition of approval. Irrigation system just to keep the plantings and grasses going. And we add the grease interceptor back here because it actually does have an outside component. It redirects food waste to an outside area where the grease can be intercepted. One of the points I meant to make earlier is that part of our phase one did include a critical area assessment, and we've gotten the basic input back from that. But the final report is still being wrapped up, should be done this week. We had held off just a little bit, again, trying to understand just exactly what we wanted to deliver to the city in that phase one. So we didn't want to jump into it until we were certain that was a required step. And then after that, we had to wait for the weather to be appropriate for it. So it's all there and will be delivered in a day or two. So cost. I will say that, the notion before we even get to this point, we were looking for fatal flaws. Is there anything wrong with this building that says, we want to back away from that? And we did not see that. We saw a pretty good building that may have had some stylistic things from day one that aren't what the city would have done. Were you purpose building this as a community center? But generally, it's got concrete tilt panels that are very durable. And so most of the bones of this building are good and can be upgraded. So as we talked about in our assessment, we divided it in 3 groups: the site improvements, improvements to the exterior of the building, and improvements to the interior of the building. Those all told came up to about $3.3 million. That would be direct construction costs, what you would pay the contractor to accomplish those. On top of that would be what we call soft costs or indirect costs. That's the fees, the permits, your time, inspections, taxes, and any furniture that goes in the building. By that we mean if you held the building up on its side and shook, anything that falls out is FF&E, fixtures, furniture, and equipment. So that's a total project cost of just under $5 million. That amount is not including any vision of what the future program is. That's just kind of to say, let's make it 2008 again. Let's make everything new and fresh, because when you move into this, theoretically, you'll have tenants in there, and you can't just come in and replace the floors without moving people out. So we need to do this work to bring it up to current status so folks can move in. It also doesn't include any staffing, security, or ongoing costs. So just being mindful that those are not included. So that being said, we think that it's a remarkable site and a great location, and the bones of the building are good, and the city's already invested in this site, and we have outlined a number of ways in which you can protect that investment by improving exterior conditions and updating the interior conditions. And we would recommend moving forward into community engagement to understand how this facility can be used by your community. And so then just to say, what does that mean? We would go into this community engagement that's identifying, it's market analysis, identifying other facilities and services in the area, identify what's missing in the area. What is the potential cost to the community? Is that, we all want things, but are we willing to pay for those things, or do we have a way to pay for those things, and in a way that understands the soft costs of operations, maintenance, and renovation of the future project. And that phase 2 would run between May and July. We'd actually be done a little sooner because we want to make it presentable to you for your July meeting. So we'd be wrapping up in June. And I think that ends our presentation.
All right, thank you very much. So, Anjali, I just want to make sure I understand. Obviously, we can ask questions, but then you were looking for what from the council to help you?
So the first thing we'd look for after your questions is if you are comfortable authorizing staff to move into phase 2. And then if we've gotten there soon enough, if you can do, we can hear from each council member as to what you would like to see for this building. Just like we're going to go and ask the community, it'll be great to hear from you first.
Okay, so so we'll have question rounds here, followed by potentially a motion, a debate, a vote, and then assuming passage, we will then tell you our wish list.
That's
Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I will, the first light is up, Councilmember Stewart.
Excellent, thank you so much. With those costs, is there anywhere where we can break out things like what work do we need to do to protect the structure, like fixing the flashing or the exposed rebar, separate from things like replacing the gym floor? Because until we know what we're going to do with the building, don't think we should spend that money. But there might be things we should do right away to protect the structure. So is that broken out so that we could see if there are things we should do right away?
Absolutely, and that's a bit of why we split it into these 3 groups, which is not always how we break it up, but those exterior, that $1.2 million right there represents improvements to roof, window, exterior of the building.
Okay, got it, great. And then with the market assessment, I just don't remember, I know we talked about it before, but what is the scope of that? Because I know we have other sites where we may have meeting spaces as well. So is that a citywide market assessment, not just locally around Building 120, is that correct?
That is accurate. We would be looking at all of the facilities that the city owns or affiliates with. We would also be looking at nearby facilities in Issaquah and Redmond, and to know where there's competition or where folks might be able to go a few blocks the other way as easy as coming here. So what we want to do is set you up for a successful community center that is well populated and active. So yes, we're looking broadly at the area.
But would it also look at like how much meeting space we need versus how much meeting space we have, right? So we have a lot of community groups that we hear from, but we don't really have sort of the numbers assessment.
I think that's going to depend on the quality of input that we get, and I think it also is to the question that was asked about your desires for this project. We need to get this from everyone. What do you see as needs, hopes for the project? But we'll be hearing from the community, and what we know is the community won't answer as a single voice.
Right.
We will do our best to hear all of those voices and present it in a way that you can make a decision or that it's actionable. But yeah, we're trying to look at it pretty large view.
Great. And I don't know, I know there's a timer on me, but I have no idea how much time I have left. For the site assessment, understanding like where we could, for example, and I don't know that we would need to, but if we needed to expand parking, like that critical areas mapping, will that be completed in phase 2 as well to get the details? I know we have a little bit of that done now.
Well, what I'm saying is it is done.
Oh, it is done. Okay.
The report just has to be
Hasn't come. Okay,
finalized,
so we'll see that
reviewed.
this week.
Yeah, that'll be available by the end of the week. And what it suggests is that with that water detention vault that exists on site and everything that is on site, and this is in the report, that there is an available 20,000 square feet of impervious area that you can add to the site within the existing structures.
Okay.
So that means you could do 10,000 square feet that's a building and 10,000 that's parking if you needed more parking, or you could do, 6,000 of building, 6,000 of plaza, and 6,000 of parking. You can divide that up. But anything that blocks the rain from going directly into the soil is in that 20,000
And that
square
still
feet.
includes all the appropriate buffers and stuff for those critical areas. Okay, thank you very much.
Councilmember Boyer.
Great, thank you guys. So this is a question as far as my expectations for phase 2. So through phase 2, are we going to get, or are you going to forward multiple options and associated costs with your analysis? And what I mean by that is, I know we've talked about its current use, which is this interim use of what's in there now. Either partnership or ground lease to an outside operator, offset annex, a city annex that we talked about, selling the property outright, the community center that you're referring to, and also some site redevelopment for mixed use and replacement. I forwarded a matrix of that to Anjali earlier, and I was just wondering if that is something we're going to get back to us with multiple options, and then what are the associated costs with each one of those?
So, Councilmember Boyer, if I may, I'm going to jump in here because I want to remind council that the direction here was to look at the facility itself and how the city might utilize it. And if you'll recall, what council did not give us direction to do was to go forth and look at what would it look like to try to sell it, or what would it look like to essentially turn it over and ground lease the entire property to somebody else. So to your question, this scope is not including those pieces because we are, part of this community outreach is what does the community want to see happen here, and then what would it look like to try to pay for whatever those components are? How much would it cost? And I understand completely where you're coming from. I just want to note that if that is something that council desires, that would be a different set of work, which we would be happy to go forth and take a look at, but that was not what this scope was designed to do.
Got it. I guess then, I don't know how to put this into a question, but I'll try. What I find difficult then is we're going to be presenting this to the public. And so they're only going to get one option. They won't know what these other options are. And therefore, we don't know what we're committing the community to in the situation where we are stuck with a structural imbalance. This might, cause us to have even a worse condition. So you're then only going to look at this, as I mentioned, a number of different options, selling it, mixed use, city annex. You're only looking at one thing. Is that correct? You're only looking at this as if it is going to be a community center. Is that true?
That is correct. That is the scope in the current contract.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Lamb.
Thank you. So you mentioned that this building would not pursue LEED certification. Can you help me understand why?
If you would like to pursue LEED certification, we're more than happy to go that route. And it's kind of that's just, if it's one of those things that can come up. We can go with a renovated component. We just completed the Redmond Senior Community Center. That was a LEED Platinum project. We're really proud of that, and we really like to push sustainability on all our projects. And so it was great to see your sustainability program up here earlier to find alignment there. So there's no reason it couldn't. And there are other metrics as well. And so part of this, and maybe I'm cutting ahead to the next section here. We're going to set goals of what we want, where we want to go, but that's kind of where we are. We're just kind of looking right now. I mean, what we've done to date is kind of examine what your current conditions are, and we're really itching to go on what the next steps could be, because I think it's getting that kind of input from yourselves, from the community. What are the goals and aspirations? It's not just about program spaces. It's about creating a civic, something with civic value for everybody in the community. And so it's sort of the next steps where it really gets exciting, and where you can really see ideas in the community, from the community, sort of feeding into creating a next great asset for Sammamish.
Okay. I was just asking the question because it said in the packet that it would not be pursuing LEED certification. I think it's really important that we build sustainably. And I don't know if that, pursuing LEED certification, I know there's a cost to it. I'd like to know, what the cost difference is, or is just building green enough? So that's something I'd like to have more understanding about.
Can I? I'll make a comment about that, which is, the scope of phase one only was to say, let's get this back to where it would have been in 2008, which was not a LEED building, and that pursuing LEED would be a program decision made in phase two.
Okay.
Right. So what we were just trying to do is give you a range of costs, the lowest of which would be kind of a simple restore the building as new, and then anything else could be added on to that.
Okay, so that would be part of my wish list then.
Great.
Can we add solar to this building? Is in the location wise, is it appropriate? Is it good for solar?
It is good for a solar. In fact, it could be good for a solar on the building. You have a big field that could be solar. There's a lot of solar aperture there to be had.
Okay, great. That's good to hear. Thanks.
Councilmember Treen.
So I think I find myself in a minority because I'm confused or frustrated or maybe both. So let me see if I understand, because what I'm hearing tonight is not what I thought we were going to hear. I thought the idea was that the scope of this work was to find out if we should move forward with this building. So it would have been wise then, in my opinion, to look at least at 2 or 3 or even 4 options as to what we should do. And I guess what I'm hearing tonight is 1, and that option is to bring it back to its original state condition, which is odd in its initial construction. So then how does that turn into usable space without spending a great deal of money? And if we were to, so my question is, I would why didn't you just tell us, hey, look, if you sold it, here's the outcome here's the cost to it, here's the gain from it, here's what it doesn't cost you over time. That would have been awesome. I'd like to have seen that. That to me is a use of this piece of property. The second one, though, since you're doing this, is what would be the added cost if it's $5 million to restore it? What would it be to upgrade it so we could actually use it? $6 million? $7 million? $11 million? What's that number? Because I don't see the way it sits currently is feasible to lease it out to somebody or turn it into a community center.
Well, it's a great question, and I think that, like, if you look at first of all, the process that we would go through would be like looking at what kind of programs are there and what would that build out be, so we could put a hard number to what that is. It's not necessarily all in addition to the 4.7 that you see up there. There are a lot of items, like let's take the interior building improvements, for example, that would be true in a reconfiguration. So it's like we've looked at the entire area and we said, okay, well, we're going to bring it up to like say it's day one condition, right? Now, if we go in and reconfigure stuff, we're still looking at bringing all those things up to, say, those day one conditions. Let's take the ceilings, for example. We're doing all the ceilings, all bringing them up to speed. If we reconfigure the spaces to make them more usable for various programs, meeting spaces, whatever they might be, those costs are already built in here. So what we'd be talking about, the added costs, which we don't have yet because we haven't designed that, but those added costs would be like, say, for the new walls. But we've already included some of the costs for the ceiling in there. So it's not simply additive, all additive. There are some costs that are built into the number you're looking up here on the screen that would translate into any future build out or reconfiguration of the space down the line.
I get that. Yeah.
And I'll add to that.
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
We haven't heard from the community. We don't know what we want to do with the building, and so
I heard from the community a lot tonight, so I'm listening. I heard what they were saying. I think one of the things then, okay, so my question would be, would you go out to the community with, if you wanted to be a community center or a senior center, let's go senior center just as one idea. Okay, here's the cost of that. If you're going to do it into a symphony, so the symphony could perform there and make it so that would be, they could even store some stuff there. That would be really nice for them too, right? And we're going to rent that to them. What would that cost us? So if you don't, my point here, I'm hoping then, here's my question, can we come to the community with, here's 5 ideas that they had tonight, and here's the cost, and would you still want to do it then? Here's the ongoing cost for it. Here's the cost to you, because some of you even, they said, okay, so first answer the question, can we do that? Can we present the feasibility? Do I get to go to the residents at my reach out and tell them, here's what the cost is?
Councilmember, your time has expired, but I'm going to let the staff go back, and while we're learning all this, I'm going to let the staff go back and answer that question. We'll come to the next person in line.
Councilmember Trine, appreciate the question, and I'm going to, the team can check me here, but the goal of phase 2 is to go out, do the community outreach, take that back, cost out what we've heard on the broad level, and then to go back out and get, and to your point, to say, if you want this, here's the cost of that. If you want this over here, here's the cost of that. In part because we all know that the wish list without a dollar figure to it, people would make different decisions. And I think that was part of, I know we've heard a lot of folks here, and I promise you that the team has, over the last few months, gotten a lot of interest in the building from everything under the sun. And so part of what we want to be able to do is to hear all that and then figure out how do we take a look at that and really say what could happen here, because even if, let's say the symphony is in one part of the building, what do you do with the other part of the building? And then how do you marry those two things up, if you will? So all those pieces are part of what phase 2 would do, is to then come back and say, here's what it costs to do X or Y or Z based on what the community feedback is. And then go back out and then re-engage with that information. Because we want to provide you all as much information as possible to make an informed decision about how to move forward and if to move forward. And to Councilmember Boyer's point and yours, if you see all that and decide that it's not going to work, do you want us to go in a different direction and look at what it would look like to do something different with the site? And whether it is, again, full ground lease or deciding to put it up for sale, those are a different set of work. And again, we're happy to do that if you get there. But this is why we're at decision points here. We built these in so that you all could decide based on the information, do you want to proceed to the next step? And I think that what the team is sharing is, this first phase was really are there fatal flaws and what is the baseline of the building? And then for you all to say, do we want to invest in some form? And if so, what would we do on top of that? Because fixing the outside and doing the things inside the building, those we would have to do no matter what, if we're going to retain the building. That's kind of the buy-in, if you will, from my perspective. And I think that's what I heard from the team when we were discussing this. That's the buy-in to make it really operationally sound. And I think what you heard is all those costs wouldn't necessarily be included if we also did improvements, but those improvements would be above these numbers. And I think that's why we want to do that next phase of going out and asking people, what do they want to see? What are the hopes and dreams? And then what might those cost? And I want to be really clear about this piece. The capital side is different from the operational side. Councilmember Boyer's been really clear about this as well, is to say, depending on what you might do there might be a different operational cost. And again, there's a lot of choices in there, and those are for you all to make, but we want to provide you that information. And so that's what phase 2 is about.
Okay. We have not yet heard from Councilmember O'Farrell. Did you, or Deputy Mayor, if you would like to go? No?
I'll just add one thought. I'm concerned that when we go to the community with the request for, hey, what do you want to have in this building? We are building up a lot of hopes and dreams. And if we can't afford them, we are going to look really bad. And I really wish if I could have what I want, phase 2 would address all the options for the building, including leasing it to another entity, selling it outright, and the range of things that could be done that the community wants. We have to be fiscally responsible with what we do. And when you ask what my wish is, it's that we come up with a fiscally defensible and sustainable choice. I didn't time myself, but I think it was less than 4.5.
Okay. Councilman Boyer, note your light. I will, but I'll jump in first and then we'll go on to round 2. If you could please very briefly explain to us what would trigger a change of occupancy for the building, resulting in a higher level of code compliance. If it's possible to do that. If it's not, I'm happy to take it.
Well, there could be, the most important thing is how many people per square foot or how many square feet per person. So right now you have an assembly space, the gymnasium, all right, that could have 7 square feet per person. So there could be, I don't know, whatever the number was, like 1,000 people in there. That's a high risk. What's exciting about that space is it's a big space, right, that the community could use. It could be an emergency center. It could be, it could be the symphony. It could be, so it's got a lot of possibilities that all fall within that assembly.
So would, say, for example, a thrift shop fall within
Thrift shop is a business, mercantile, which would be a lower. So a mercantile occupancy would be akin to a business or an office. So the whole north side of the site is currently a business occupancy. So that's about 150 square feet per person.
Okay.
Right? So you get that difference between 7 and 150. So if you kept anything that was business, office, small meeting space on that north side, you wouldn't trigger. If you wanted to do a big assembly hall on the north side, then you start to drive a change of occupancy over there. The south side is in pretty good shape. You're probably not going to drive that to a worse condition.
Okay. One of the challenges we had when we used that building ourselves was the sound of the HVAC system. I think you said I think it was 5 years. I can't remember the useful life left in it, but with the current system in place, is it possible to do sound dampening on that?
It is possible to add some dampening. I would characterize the units, and I think what we foresee is they would almost all have to be replaced by 2033. The units that were installed were low-end units. The vibration control, the mass, all of that kind of stuff. Additionally, with not having those vibration issues, they're not particularly energy efficient. So yes, I think one would imagine in about that time frame coming back and installing a DOAS system, heat pump systems, all electric, do any number of things to improve the sustainability and energy efficiency of the building as well as the vibration.
If during the community outreach portion during phase 2, you had a community group vocally opposed to us keeping the building and sent petitions or whatever, would you be precluded from including that in the community feedback to us, even though it falls outside of the scope of the community center framework that we've kind of developed here? I'm trying to address the concerns raised by other council members. Would we be excluded from hearing that feedback?
No, I think that we are vessels. When we hear something, we try to make sense of it. We try to understand where it's coming from, how it fits with other input that we get, but we're not making any decisions for you. We're not filtering anything. And in fact, I mean, I think Scott made excellent points that, you're really very well may have multiple tenants that want multiple things out of this building. And what we foresee our job is creating a number of options for you that then in whatever way we think is the best or you think is the best, we get voting, we get feedback, we get some way to understand what is the best path forward.
Okay, and my time is almost up, so just one request on the wall reconfiguration outline. If we could just see the level of effort associated with reconfiguring the walls, understanding the costs, like this wall, cheap to take down versus this one, load-bearing, lots of work, so that we can understand what reconfiguration might look like.
Easy to do.
Okay, perfect. And with that, my time is up. Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to try and understand what you guys are doing in phase 2, because that was not my understanding going into this. So let's try this again. So if you go to the community and you're going to ask them, you're first going to say, what do you want? And they're going to say, 1,000 different people want 1,000 different things, bowling, bingo, inside motocross, whatever they come up with, right? And then you're going to go away and then cost each one of those. So you're going to give us the recurring, the non-recurring, the long-term, the all-up life cycle costs of doing different versions of whatever the community brings to us. Is that true?
So we are going to first go out into the community and educate them on what we already have. Before we even listen to them, I think it's important for us to share and just have everyone understand what we already offer, and also our
you mean
service
in the city?
Yes.
Okay.
Within the city.
Yeah.
And then we will listen to them, and we'll also likely let them know that it's, we'll explain our service model, we'll explain that these things are likely going to cost. So we're not going to just get this big wish list and come away and then come up with these big costs. So we will let people know that these things
How will you do that, Anjali, if you don't know what you're going to offer?
Right. When we listen to them, we will be taking notes, like even if they want a space to use, it's not like it's going to come for free. There is a cost associated. There are different models in which it can be charged in the form of rent. It can
So we
be
do know
charged-
what those costs are now.
We wouldn't know when we are first listening. And
Okay,
then-
so then on the second round, you would tell them.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. I guess that's what I was getting at. You're going to get all the input, like I said, bingo, motocross, whatever. Then you're going to take all that and then again, recurring, non-recurring life cycle, total staffing, and they're very different because some of it, I'm not sure if these are employed, city employed or not. All that. So you're going to come up back with the cost, right?
Correct.
Okay. So once we do that and we see all that, then we're going to make a decision here. How would you suggest we make that decision? Between what alternatives are we choosing?
I think that's the process. The process is going to work out so right now, I don't know what you're going to be choosing.
But I mean, am I going to get back one version of the community center, another version of the community center, another version of the community center?
I think collectively, what we'll be doing is working with the community, and so we're in the outreach is really an information gathering phase,
Sure.
right? We're making some value judgments of the types of spaces that are either you're lacking or that are really desired by folks in the community. And then it's looking at how those spaces work together. We're not going to be able to do everything, right? The building's it's a finite resource, and what we want to do is make the best investment that the city can make in that space that gets the biggest return on your investment. And so we're going to work with the community, everyone here, to understand what are those spaces. We kind of, Anjali had mentioned, we're going to kind of let the community also know what you currently have, because we're not want to sort of duplicate assets with it. We sort of want to be able to have this enhance all of the existing components you have in the city. So I think typically when we're running our outreach and we're asking what it is that folks are missing in the community, it's not just simply creating a wish list of things that happen. There's going to be it's gathering this. You're beginning to look at how many, what is the highest ranked value, for instance.
So we're going to get back we're going to get back a recommendation. Is that true?
Yes. Well, you want to go?
Well, the contract says there could be two or three, so up to three. So,
up to three.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I was saying before. We might have this version of a community center, that version of a community center. This one's got bowling, that one's got motocross, this one has bingo, right?
It could be that.
Councilmember, your time has expired.
Is that what we're going to get back?
Yeah, and then the final result might be I want a little bit of that one, this one, and this one. And you're still going to sort of find it, but you'll have like those three options to review, understand what the cost implications are on each one, and some will have more of a return on the investment depending on the types of spaces there as well. But yeah, you wouldn't just there won't be like the final. This is it. You'll have those. You'll have those plans to be able to look at and see what you want to do.
There are many decisions that we can make on the fly as architects. If somebody says we need a big hole in this building, we can say, okay, that means cutting a lot of concrete and it means losing square footage. If they need high level, really hot spaces or cold spaces, we know the implications on those. We want to manage everybody's expectations. And when we see people ask for something, if they want to jump 50 feet in the air on their motocross, we're like, okay, yes, we can do that. But we know here are some physical obstacles to that, and we're going to need some more insurance.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Really quick, Councilmember, one of the things that I want to just say here is that I think we see this as a more iterative process than a direct hard line. Here's a report and you get three options. I think what we're aiming for is we try to put some parameters around the contract, but really what we're aiming for is to look at the high priority, high value things that the community wants and then try to say what works. And then council will give us some direction that will help define that that as we get there. And you're going to hear all of that too. And I think that's part of the iterative process is as we go through this, I think there will be some refining based on the input that we get. So I totally understand where you're going with this. And I think we are in this together is what I would say as we work through this. I think the goal is to give you information as a council and to be able to make decisions moving forward rather than having it be a hard, here's a hard report with 3 options because I don't think that's going to necessarily fit the bill when we get there.
But we won't be able to compare that option to the other selling it or anything else, right, Scott?
Councilmember Boyer, we'll come back to you at the next round. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Just to quickly finish that thought, Councilmember, if council desires to look at those other options, we are happy to do that in concert. We would just need some direction to go forth and do. So I think that's always on the table for you all as well. We would just need some direction to put that together.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, thank you. Don't we already use the building in ways that have higher occupancy? Like we do a lot of events there where we have lots of people. So aren't we already using the building in ways that are not the current permitted use? I'm not trying to get us in trouble, but I just think that we shouldn't limit that. We already know that gathering spaces like that are needed because we already use it for many of those, right? Like we don't have another place to hold some of those events.
Well, while Central Washington University was using it, it was underutilized, and that's especially because of COVID. So if you look at the average days per year, it was underutilized.
Okay.
There was this occasional peak when we had events.
So it's on the aggregate, it's not on a per event basis.
There is a safety limit, and we shouldn't really be going above that.
Okay. Yeah. The other question I have, and it's kind of in the same vein, which is around again, just trying to understand the market assessment. I know we had another project, Big Rock Park South, where people wanted more information before deciding what to do with, whether we were going to fulfill the approved master plan there or not, because there were buildings involved. So I want to understand if the market assessment that we do is really going to look at the entire community needs in terms of space and what types of space, including existing facilities and approved master plans, so that we can make a decision of do we do this or do we do that. So is that the intention of this, so that we can include that in there? Because I think that was one of the questions that came out of the discussion on Big Rock Park South, wasn't it? That we wanted more information about what's available and what could Building 120 offer, so that we can decide what type of space. Like, do we want the barn or do we want something different? And I just want to make sure we're going to get that here.
Yes, what we are going to need to do, though, is to do a separate and smaller effort to just look at the buildings of Big Rock South, because that is not in the scope for the consultant to do. But we hope to run it on a parallel timeline, so the information would come together at the time of when you have to make budget decisions. So you will have the information of what the potential programming and costs would be for the buildings at Big Rock South, and you would have the same information for Building 120 in the fall.
Could we not just put it all in one contract, so we kind of had the same information gathered in the same way? I get that it might cost a little more, but I don't want to be comparing apples and oranges.
I appreciate that. And one of the things that I would say, part of the community outreach is really asking what types of space are people looking for. And I think if we can look at and cost out separately, or we can talk offline, but the goal would be, we need to understand what types of spaces the community wants, like what's the need, and then we can look at that assessment of space in the city, and then try to look at, so how would we fill that based on that community need? Not everything that is going to come up can or maybe should be filled at Building 120, for instance.
Right, and there are multiple buildings on Big Rock Park South, so maybe some of them we'd say yes, and some of them we'd say no, we don't need. But if we don't do that comprehensive study, we can't make those trade-off decisions. And again, looking at the cost, because we don't know if it might be cheaper to keep the barn at Big Rock Park South versus convert part of Building 120 or vice versa, right? We don't know that, and that's what we need to understand, right?
And I think that's our goal, is to try to get to that point and have all that information come in at the same time. So if council's all right, we'll do some flexibility on our end and pull that together. But that was kind of the broader goal of the community outreach portion, was to get at community need, not necessarily site specific.
Okay, and then I'll throw out a question. You won't have time to answer it, but the question is, I believe that currently, our process requires that anything we do has that sustainability element. So we should be looking at the HVAC, the solar panels, insulation, all of that in terms of any building we do, correct?
Right, we do follow the city's climate action plan, and we also have the Clean Building Act, but I guess where council gets to make a decision is there are different tiers of buildings. Right now, there's tier 1 buildings are required to meet some of those, and I believe this comes under a tier 2 building. So it's like, do you do what's required? Do you go above and beyond? I don't think those are things we have answers for today, but we would look to you for, again, what goals you would like us to accomplish.
Deputy Mayor.
Oops, went the wrong direction. Can you describe for me the community outreach process and tools that you're going to use to get that kind of feedback? And I'm wondering, when we say we, will we just get a report from you when all is said and done, or is there a role for the council in that to really hear directly from people what they're telling you they want to have, and how you're framing it, because that will impact how they answer it?
Well, I think, as Anjali said, we need to inform the community about what we've done to date about the building, to talk about what it is good at, how big it is, all of these conditions. We have a general plan for a couple of big community meetings, to be at the farmers market, to be in public places, also to collect data in a variety of ways, and we need to work all of this through with Anjali and make sure that the plan hits all of your goals, to really reach out to the people who can be here tonight, the people who can't be here tonight, to reach broadly. We will, I think, have minutes. We will have drawings. We will have, as we talk about, they won't be incredibly well developed for every option, but we will be capturing spatially what people are saying they can use. So there will be a very firm record. Then there has to be a meeting where we're really looking at a variety of these together and saying, and I think we've talked about, what are you willing to pay for, right? There has to be an operational model for this. We understand that the city isn't looking to hire 10 people to run this building, all right? So what can the programs that we're reaching out to, what can they provide? So all of this will be brought into a variety of options. I think there'll also be kind of sub-options. There might be somebody that only wants the gym side. There might be somebody that only wants, so it might be a lot of mix and match, but we're going to try to put all that together in a way. And is it voting? Is it, we don't really know yet what is our, how to bring it across the finish line. But if you approve us to move forward, we have tentatively a meeting scheduled for tomorrow to begin putting this to bed.
Yeah, we're working with Framework on this, and Leslie Bain, who's worked on your arts program here as well. So the intent is that we're going out and we're meeting people where they are. We're trying to get, so there's a multitude of different ways, surveys and other things that we'll be conducting, and some of those things will be like value judgments. Do you like a meeting room space? Do you like a meeting room space if it's X amount of dollars, which may all of a sudden to take a yes to a no. So I think it's a comprehensive way to gather data. Then we'll sift through the data with the team, and then kind of give you recommendations and show you the results and provide what the recommendation would be based upon what we're seeing.
And the public meetings and focus group meetings, we'll have dates for those. Council is welcome to attend any and all of those, or join us at the market when we have a booth, and then you can hear directly from the community as well.
As well as any council meeting through the process. I think that's the other part is, I mean, obviously these are great ways for folks to come in and engage with council.
Mr. City Manager, your light is still on. And then Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a quick question, and forgive me if you've already answered it. But is one of the options when we go out to the community, Anjali, are they going to ask the community, would they like the city to sell the building? Is that something that will be discussed as an option? You know, or will the, I guess what I'm getting at is, will the community be able to kind of give that kind of feedback, and they're like, oh, no, sell the thing, sell it. I don't want to pay for it. You know, so I just kind of want, is that sort of, will there be space for that sort of opinion to be brought forward to?
Councilmember O'Farrell, I'm going to jump in here. I think I understand where council is going. I think if you get feedback as a council and the feedback is the community is not necessarily interested in paying, then I think then council has the opportunity to make some decisions at that point. Again, that wasn't sort of the scope of what the phase 2 was. If that's where council would like us to sort of pursue that, that's something we can look at. Asking it in the vacuum again is always the challenge, and that's why we want to try to wrap some cost around these things. Without doing a separate body of work around what it would look like to sell it, we wouldn't necessarily know what the market is for a building like this to be able to say, would you like us to sell it so that the city would generate X amount of revenue? That's a different question. And so I think this is our challenge right at the moment is, council directed us onto this path. If there is a different one, we are happy to engage on that one again. But it would be a slightly separate body of work that we would need to do.
No, that's good enough for me, Scott. No, I think I'm really interested to hear what the community has to say. So no, that's good enough for me.
Councilmember Treen.
Would you have one of these get to tell me what we're going to do, and I get to tell you what I'd like to have, events? Are we going to have one of those at the 120 building?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay, Council, I don't see any other lights on. Just double checking. Okay, at this point, we need a motion to continue. Would anyone like to offer any motion? I'm sorry, it would be a motion about whether we move on to phase 2 or not. So thank you for asking that. Yes. So is there a motion to move on to phase 2? I don't know if you had any requested language for you, but I think it's just a motion to continue on to phase 2.
I can make that motion. I move that we move on to phase 2.
Okay, it's been moved.
Second.
And seconded. Councilmember O'Farrell, would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Okay. All right, I've got Councilmember Lamb, your light is on. Okay, Councilmember Stewart.
It's kind of a question. Is this the right time for us to give Anjali, this is what we want to see for phase 2, since phase 2, just saying phase 2 is a little ambiguous at the moment?
So I think that would come after the motion is approved.
After.
If phase 2 fails now, that would be a moot conversation.
Okay,
so after this
if
motion,
this motion passes, then we get to tell
Yes.
Anjali what our hopes and dreams.
Yep.
Okay, because I really want to share my hopes and dreams.
Okay.
Oh, just for the building, you mean, not my hopes and dreams for everything?
Just limited to the motion,
sorry.
yeah. So I don't see any other lights on. I have heard a couple of the concerns from council members about the optionality to sell the building. While I don't support selling the building, I think it is important that we hear that from people. So what I would like to do is offer an amendment that phase 2 includes that as a proactive outcome from residents. It could be, give them the options, let them tell us what they want, and also proactively allow them to tell us that they don't want to pay for it. That way, when it comes back before, that's the motion. Add that to it. So
I'll second the amendment to the motion.
Okay.
To add the part about allowing an option for selling the building. Thank you.
Okay. I've accidentally already spoken to my motion, so would anyone like to make commentary on the amendment? Councilmember
Now I'm
Stewart.
confused because I thought you just said we were just going to approve moving forward and then talk about what we want to see in phase 2.
Correct. So we had a motion on the floor to approve phase 2. I offered an amendment to include in phase 2 when we're going out to the community, asking if they would also like to sell it. That way we can hear all of the feedback, because it sounded like staff had what they interpreted as clear direction to only offer the community center option. And so this is to allow them to also collect feedback on if selling the building is something the community wants. So
I think I need more clarity then on what we're, because I thought that what we were providing, like I have a list of what I want to see in phase 2. And so if we're scoping phase 2 in this motion, then I think my stuff needs to be in the motion. Right, then I think everybody's stuff needs to be in the motion. Because I thought we were approving a motion to move forward, and then we were all going to say what we wanted phase 2 to include. But now you're adding an amendment to say, I want phase 2 to also include this, but we're not including any of the things on anybody else's list. So that's why I'm confused.
I get the confusion there. So I am amending the phase of the contract, not the desires of it's an amendment to the phase of the contract, not part of my wish list. If that makes
It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm sorry. I'm still very confused. So are we scoping phase 2 in the motion, or are we scoping phase 2 after the motion based on what everybody says?
I can clarify that what we are looking for is your wishes and dreams. Do you want to see this space used for a thrift shop? Do you want it to be used for more, basketball, pickleball? So that's kind of what we want after you pass this motion. I guess what we are hearing from the mayor is our scope in the contract was just to focus on a community center use, and I guess the clarification is you want to make sure one of the clear questions is if the community does not want to pay for this, you want that to be proactively asked.
Correct. It sounded like as part of this discussion, that was kind of softly added as an option that would be doing. All I'm doing is clarifying that does become part of the phase 2 scope.
Well, then I'd like to make another amendment because I have 4 things that I want included in phase 2. So I move that phase 2 include additional community outreach to ensure that we hear from people that we have not already heard from and that don't attend or follow meetings. So I think it's really important because we do hear from some great people here, but we don't hear from a whole lot more people than we do hear from. I'd also like it to summarize the top, sort of 2 to 3 community center options, as well as the mixed use and the cell option, right? Which is to be able to compare, here's what we would get if we did community center option 1, community center option 2, community center option 3, and then what if it was mixed use versus what if we sold it? So I think it should include all 5 of those, up to 5, because it would be 2 to 3 community center options. I think that we also have to get back, as part of that, the inclusion of how does Big Rock Park South and the buildings in Big Rock Park South and other existing resources play into what is needed. And finally, I would like to see a breakout of the sustainability upgrades and how much those costs, and also how many trees we would have to plant if we didn't do those sustainability updates. So that's a motion to amend. there's a
Mayor,
second.
if I may, given the conversation, perhaps if those that offered the amendment and the motion could rescind them, then we can hear from all of council, because it sounds like we're not quite ready to actually vote on a motion, if that's okay. I think we can take what we've already heard from Councilmember Stewart and yourself, and then maybe the rest of council can weigh in. We can get all that, and then if that's okay, then we could move forward. So procedurally, if it's all right, maybe we can rescind both of those and then get the rest of council's input.
I would rescind my second to the amendment of sell the property.
Okay, I'm withdrawing my amendment. Councilmember Stewart, did you have a second?
I didn't have a second. I'm
Okay.
still confused on what we're doing then.
I would second.
And Councilmember Stewart, my apologies.
So I did have a second.
But we didn't.
Yes, but you were making a motion, and there was a motion with an amendment on the table. So what I'm suggesting is, per Robert's rules, that one couldn't be made to that amended motion. So I was just
Actually,
suggesting.
that's not true. You could have a series of amendments for Robert's rules. I'm just saying, like, if that's what we're saying, you can have 3, 4, or 5 amendments. So there's no rule that says you can't have multiple amendments.
Fair. I thought it might be easier than doing competing or add-on amendments, just to get all the information first and then try make the motion again.
Excellent.
So what's on the floor?
So at the moment, I believe, Mayor, that the mayor rescinded his amendment. And if, I can't remember who made the original motion. If Councilmember Farrell would rescind it, then we can just hear from everybody and then start that process over again.
Start the process over, like call for the motion.
No, just to hear everyone's, what they would like to
Hopes and
see
dreams.
in phase
And
2 before we get to hopes and dreams, just to confuse everybody.
I just think we should take the vote and then move forward. But okay, if we want to do it backwards, okay, fine. I rescind my motion.
So, to clarify, you are asking us to all state what we would prefer the scope of phase 2 to be.
Correct.
That way we can offer a motion.
Correct.
That encompasses it all at once and not have a hodgepodge of amendments.
Correct.
That seems fair to me.
Okay.
Okay, so this is separate from what goes in the building, it's how we do it. Scope of phase 2 is in the agenda if people would like to review that real quick. Councilmember Boyer.
Yes, on phase 2, I'll go back to where I started. I would like to see options analyzed to include using it as you currently are, ground leased outside operator, a city annex, sell the property, community center, renovation, and site redevelopment for mixed use. And included in that, I'd like to see the recurring costs, the non-recurring costs, any risk liability assessment, strategic alignment, and capacity. Thank you.
Councilmember Trine.
I concur with Councilmember Boyer, and I would just add one other thing, which is the lead. That was spoken by Councilmember Lamb.
Councilmember Lamb.
So I again want to see this building built as or remodeled as sustainably as possible. So that includes LEED certification. I'd like to add solar. And I'd like to see how much affordable housing we can build. There is 11.7, this is my calculations, there's 11.75 acres of buildable land. And, you know, within this lot sits the building 120. But I'd like to know, like, where we can build affordable and how much we can build. How can we maximize it, whether it's in front or behind the building? How can we do it? And I'd like to rezone this to mixed use.
Councilmember Stewart.
Oh, I was just, if everybody's done, I was going to make a motion to try to incorporate what everybody said, so. I was just waiting if everybody's done.
Were you tracking what was?
I am.
We'll go back and review the tape later. I think what I would say is we heard everyone, and I think what I would suggest is we've got it all. What I would want to be clear about with council is how much money we might be spending on top of what was already planned in order to do some of this stuff. So I just want to be clear about that. We might need to come back and talk about that, and when we go back and look at all these component pieces. And so I just want to put that out there. But in the short term, Mayor, I think we heard it all, and so somebody wants to move to make the motion to now move into phase 2 with. And Anjali has a jump in.
And with that will come added time. We wouldn't be able to get to this by July. We'd probably work on a contract amendment, come back to you, and then it would move the work out to the fall. There's no realistic way we would get through this list by the end of June.
Councilmember Stewart.
Okay. So is it safe to make the motion?
Yes.
So I move that we move forward with phase 2 that ensures that we include 4 to 5 options, including selling the property and adding or converting to mixed use, complete and thorough outreach of community needs, comparing those needs with existing facilities, plus building 120 potential and any approved master plans, including Big Rock Park South, and include sustainability upgrades, not limited to, but including LEED certified, solar, et cetera, and again, adding the cost estimates, both capital and operational costs for all of those. And potentially affordable housing in the mixed use sector.
Is there a second?
Can I amend that?
Well, first you have to second it, and then you could amend it.
Councilmember Stewart.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Stewart, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you for your excellent presentation. I know this is a big scope of work. As you can see, there's a lot of passion from the council and the community on this, which just tells you how great it is. We do have other great potential gems in our city, and we just want to make sure that we're making really solid decisions on what the community needs and how we spend our money. So appreciate that. I think that I was able to capture everything that the council threw out there. We did not include the kitchen sink, though, so you are lucky on that. Thank you.
I'd like to amend.
State your amendment.
I would like to also add the ground lease option and also a city annex option.
Second that amendment.
I've been asked to explain the city annex option. May I do that, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, thank you.
Imagine if it was for city use, only for city use, and it could be expanded, whatever the city wants to put in there, not for public use.
Okay, it's been moved and that amendment's been moved and seconded. I don't see any other lights on. Would anyone else like to speak to that amendment? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Amendment?
We are voting on Councilmember Boyer's amendment.
Aye.
Aye.
If council could please raise your hand with your vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, motion 6 ayes, 1 nay. Motion carries. Amendment. The motion has been amended. Okay, now we are debating the main motion. Would any council, as amended. Would any council member like to speak to that? Okay, I don't see anybody. I will speak on that. I have an issue with the scope creep. We have voted down the tile floor because it was too much money. We have just added hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially to a project and kicked the can down the road a inordinate amount of time. And I in no way can support the added cost of that or the added time. Phase 2 as scoped was good enough. We voted for it once already. I don't think we should vote for this exceptionally expanded version of that, so I'm going to be voting no. Okay, seeing no other lights on, all those in favor of the motion on the floor as amended, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Nay. Motion carries 4-3. Okay, and at this point, you would like to hear the wish list?
We can do a time check and we can come back. I guess the first step for us is now going to be to bring a contract amendment to council.
Okay, yep, I think that that's probably, the wish list will probably change after we hear that. So if council is okay, we will skip that portion of the conversation. All right, and then we will move on to thank you very much for your time tonight, and we look forward to hearing back from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will take a 5-minute recess and reconvene at 9:23.
Council, the time is 9:23. If you can please resume to the dais. Thank you.
All right, Council, let's go. All right, the time is now 9:23. The council has returned from recess. Up next, we will have a presentation about the Memorandum of Understanding.
Good evening, Council. For the record, Rachel Bianchi, Deputy City Manager. We are just going to have a very short conversation about this MOU tonight. So, as many of you know, in early 2024, the City and AFSCME Council Local 2 entered in their first successor collective bargain agreement. That became effective February 27th of 2024 and will expire, at the end of this year. As a part of the contract negotiation process for the current contract, the city and AFSCME identified a couple of things in the contract negotiations that we could not come to agreement on, but knew that it was something that we wanted to keep working on through the term of the contract. This is very common in these types of things, right? Happy to report that through the Labor Management Committee, which includes the city and the union, we did come to terms of the agreement, which is before you. The language pertains to emergency lodging in Article 6, Section 4E. This codifies, basically what this does is codify the city's longstanding existing practice to do this. So we are asking that you go ahead and approve the MOU so that it can be added into Article 6, Section Section 4E of the CBA. And this is important and supported by both sides. So appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council, are there any questions? I don't see any lights. Is there a motion? Okay. Deputy Mayor.
I move that we adopt the MOU as recommended.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. Thank you very much. Okay, and now we have a presentation on the review scaling. Going to review the scaling of parks and transportation impact fees in new impact fee code section. We have 34 minutes. So, Mr. Director, how long is the presentation, and should we right now make a motion to extend?
The presentation's about 15 minutes. And depends on questions and feedback, which will ultimately drive the length of the meeting.
Okay, so we will have you go through your presentation, hold questions to the end, and then we can make a decision based on the number of lights that pop up if we're going to extend at that point.
And we'll do our best to get through this presentation quickly.
Awesome, thank you very much. All right, floor is yours.
Good evening, David Pyle, Department of Community Development. With me, I have Evan Fisher, who's a senior management analyst and also has been the project manager on the city's impact fees. Tonight, we're here to discuss with you a proposed scaling of parks and transportation impact fees, and also a new proposed code that we have that will consolidate all of our impact fee language. To be clear, we're not here to talk about setting school impact fees, although the proposed code language does impact or affect, I guess, school impact fees, in that we are simply collapsing it into one chapter in the code as proposed. I'll pass it off to Evan and he'll perform the presentation.
Thank you, David. Good evening, City Council. I have 34 minutes. Here we go. So our time with you tonight, we'll do a very brief project and topic overview. We'll review the impact fee formulas and the scaling impact fees. Then we'll look at the local policy decisions and the recommendations the Planning Commission has provided on those before we shift to direction from the City Council on those policy decisions. As a reminder, impact fees are a one-time charge that the city may assess on new development to support the costs of expanding the city systems to support new growth. The may is important here because it is a local policy decision provided by state law and not a requirement. Impact fees are used to fund capacity adding projects identified in the capital facilities element of the comprehensive plan and maintain adopted levels of service in plans like the comp plan, PROS plan, and TMP. They can be thought of as a tool to help ensure development helps pay for development. We are updating our impact fees in response to Senate Bill 5258, which now requires that impact fees scale with the size of development. Simply put, the new state law says that smaller units should pay less in impact fees and larger units should pay more. This was done as part of the state's effort to address housing affordability and incentivize smaller units. This work was meant to be done 6 months after the adoption of our 2024 comprehensive plan, so that would have been at the end of June of last year, so we're out of date. Additionally, with the adoption of the comp plan, it was a logical time to revisit our impact fees because we haven't done so since 2015. On screen here, you see our current impact fees. Our single family for parks is around $6,700. For street impact fees, we're looking at $14,200. And on the right, you can see how we stack up against neighboring and peer cities. But really, the thing to take away from this slide is that our current fees are a flat fee regardless of the unit size. Before we move on, we wanted to briefly reiterate the focus of this project. Really what we're looking to do here is use existing city data to develop a legally defensible methodology for calculating scaling parks and transportation impact fees that comply with the new state law. This project is not about amending adopted capital project lists or adopted levels of service.
We can take a pause for a minute. I think this is one thing we really want to stress here. Our experience with the Planning Commission was that they had a lot of really good feedback about impact fees overall. One thing that the Planning Commission spent a lot of time on was discussing something that we really had no ability to change as part of this project. There was a strong interest on the part of some Planning Commission members that we would change the capital facilities project lists that were the result of prior efforts. So we typically go through a planning exercise where we put in place a level of service as a choice in the community, whether through a Parks, Recreation, Open Space plan or a transportation master plan, and those are then included in the comprehensive plan. And those levels of service then result in the city's planning for capital facilities projects in order to maintain and meet those levels of service. Those are processes that happen on completely separate channels from this work that we're doing here. We understand from Planning Commission feedback that the lists that are generated as a result of those levels of service that we have adopted may not be agreed on by some members of the commission. However, this work here will not change those lists and will not change those levels of service. If that is something that is desired, we should stop this work altogether and go back to the drawing board and spend another year revisiting our comp plan, our Parks and Recreation Open Space plan, and our transportation master plan, and change those levels of service, and then completely reboot our capital facilities projects lists. I just want to highlight that as we did spend a significant amount of time with the Planning Commission talking about that, and that is not something that we're talking about changing here, nor are we able to change that. That requires going back to the comp plan, back to the TMP, back to the PROS plan, and redoing that and resetting levels of service.
To help us with this conversation, we've developed sort of this 5-part framework. The first is creating a formula that is legally defensible and used to calculate our impact fees. FCS, the city's consultant, has done this for us using industry standard best practices. Part 2 are the inputs that get fed into the formula. These are inputs based on local data, capital planning, policy decisions, everything David just covered. Next are the fees, which are the outputs from the formulas and the inputs. Then we have the local policy decisions around how the impact fees are assessed. And then last, we administer the program through the Sammamish Municipal Code. On screen, we have the transportation fee formula FCS has developed. As the numerator, we have eligible costs of capacity increasing projects, which is divided by estimated growth in the city in new person trip ends. The capacity increasing projects are derived from the city's adopted capital project lists. Person trips account for not just vehicle trips, but other modes of transportation like walking, buses, biking, scooting, etc. And once those inputs are run through the formula, we get the transportation impact fee amount. Next is the park formula. At the top, we have the value of the existing park system. You divide that by the city's population to get a park's capital value per person. You then multiply that by the estimated population growth, which is an input drawn from the comprehensive plan to get the park value needed for growth. You then use the project list to get the eligible capital improvement costs and divide that by the park value needed for growth. You make adjustments if needed and account for other revenues to ultimately get a park's impact fee. So on screen here, we have the table produced by FCS for the updated fee amounts, and it's a bit overwhelming, so we'll take a second and we'll just go row by row and explain what these numbers are. The first step is to determine an impact fee for single family and multifamily units, which you see on screen in the top two rows. From there, a blended impact fee is created, which is based on the proportion of single family to multifamily housing units within the city. And currently, approximately 87% of the city's residential units are single family units. Once we have the blended fee, which is applied to all residential unit types, we can then apply scaling using the two inputs in the red box, average occupants per dwelling unit of 2.75, which comes from the comprehensive plan, and the average home size in square feet, which comes from county assessor data. When you divide the blended fee by these numbers, you get the impact fee per occupant and per square foot, as you see in the blue box. Finally, we have the minimum and maximum fee amounts and their associated square footages. These are set using U.S. Census and American Housing Survey data. The minimum is set at the point where the unit sizes correlate to being occupied by only one person, and the maximum is set at a point where home sizes no longer correlate with additional number of occupants. And on screen here is the chart that FCS included in the report depicting that the methodology for determining the minimum and maximum square footages. But ultimately, the thing to take away here are the numbers in the red box here, which is the impact fee per square foot, which will be the methodology that we apply when an applicant comes in for a new project to determine how much of an impact fee is assessed on the project. This slide looks at the current and calculated impact fees and shows that we essentially maintain our relative position to our neighboring and peer cities in the cost of our impact fees. And now we'll shift gears into the local policy decisions and the Planning Commission's recommendations on each. The first was a broad question if the Commission recommends the methodology for calculating the parks and transportation impact fees that FCS produced, along with the fee amounts. By a vote of 4-2, the Commission did recommend these methodologies. Those confirming said that they felt, they understood the concerns with the inputs, but seeing there are planned updates to those inputs on the horizon, they thought it made sense to move forward with what we have available today. They acknowledged FCS's methodologies were widely used and that felt there was a thorough review by both the consultant and commission through the 6 or 7 meetings we had with the commission. The folks dissenting were concerned that the fees are based on outdated capital project plans, that ultimately the capital project lists and the methodologies might not appropriately align with the city's multimodal policy goals. And there was a concern that using the park system valuation overestimates the community's future parks needs and charges new development ultimately fees that are too high and could raise housing costs. The next item is the amount of impact fees to be assessed for all unit types. This gets back to the first slide and the decision, the city council may choose to impact fees up to 100% of the calculated values all the way down to 0%. By a vote of 4-2, the commission recommended the city council assess 100% of the calculated impact fees. Again, confirming that, the planned input updates support this. They were concerned they would lack a logical methodology for a basis of choosing a reduced fee amount, and that they thought it was a positive thing that there is a mode to provide waivers or reductions for affordable housing or special circumstances. Those dissenting, they didn't agree with the methodology, so it was hard for them to agree with the fee amounts. There was a recommendation to reduce the amount collected, and encouraging the city council to consider adding a different service areas for areas like the town center, where it might have a more multimodal mix of transportation uses. By a vote of 6-0, the commission recommended the following. They recommended reductions in waivers for different AMI bands, affordable housing bands. They voted for exempting additions and accessory dwelling units for impact fees, and to remove the cap of deferrals offered to a single project proponent. Just a little background on that. State law says that we have to allow for up to 20 deferrals. And the deferral is paying your impact fee at either the first point of occupancy or sale. In the current draft of the code, we don't have a limit on deferrals, and the Planning Commission voted that there shouldn't be a cap. Following the Planning Commission's review and recommendation, we did have legal provide their feedback, and they pointed out a few things that we wanted to bring to the council's attention tonight. One, state law says the city may reduce impact fees for affordable housing up to 80% without having to pay the exempted portion from public funds. If fees are waived, the city must pay the difference, that 20%, from the general fund through a fund transfer into the capital fund. Affordable housing above 80% AMI band does not qualify for exemptions, meaning that the city would have to pay any amount of reduced impact fees for 81 to 100% AMI housing. So staff provided the following recommended amendment to what the commission recommended of reducing impact fees by 80% for affordable housing at the 0 to 50% AMI band, and reduce impact fees by 50% for affordable housing at the 51 to 81% AMI, or 80% AMI, and then getting rid of that top reduction. Further, from legal feedback, they pointed out that state law does not provide for exemptions for ADUs. We could choose to exempt ADUs, but if we do, we're required to pay those impact fees through a fund transfer. So we could choose to waive them if we want to make that choice, just with the understanding that we'd have to transfer from the general fund to the capital fund the amount of the impact fees. Staff's recommended amendment there is to remove ADUs from the list of exemptions, but that's completely at your discretion. Briefly, we just wanted to talk about the broader picture of what impact fees look like in the scheme of the budget and the revenues they bring in. They are the second largest direct revenue dedicated to capital construction following the real estate excise tax. But ultimately, we're talking about a small but important revenue source. The 25-26 budget projects revenues in the Parks Capital Fund of $450,000 of a total revenue of almost $9 million, so about 5%, and about 11% in the Transportation Capital Fund. And that chart there on the right just shows the actuals and budgeted of the revenues collected from impact fees. And briefly, as we said earlier, the impact fees are implemented through the Sammamish Municipal Code. We have gone through and we propose to do a repeal and replace, consolidating all of our impact fee code into one clean section, getting rid of redundant and outdated language, and making sure our new code language can implement our scaling impact fees. And is consistent with state law. Yep. So the next steps, we're looking tonight for direction from the City Council, and if you agree with the Planning Commission's recommendations and staff's amendments on the methodology and fees, the waivers and reductions for affordable housing, the exemptions and removing ADUs from the exemptions, the deferral limit, and ultimately we're poised right now to have a public hearing with you on this complete package, which would be a resolution to approve the scaling impact fee through the impact fee report, a resolution amending the city's fee schedule, and an ordinance repealing and replacing the code language on May 5th. If we're not ready for that, we can push it back, but we are set up for that right now. So asking the council if you're ready for that, and if not, what else we could provide to help you move forward.
Thank you very much. Do you need a motion? If you could please keep that last slide back up for everyone. Thank you. Do you need a motion from us to direct you about the public hearing? I don't think you officially do, but do you want one?
I guess let's see how we're all feeling, if we're all on the
Sounds
same
good.
page. Yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Boyer.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Could you go back to the slide where the staff amended the affordable housing numbers? I missed that. So it went to reduce impact 80% for affordable, reduce impact. Okay, so it was a change. Thank you. Just a question, and Evan, we talked about this before, on the CIP listing, it had that eligibility column in that. Who determines that eligibility percentage?
The city worked with DKS, our transportation consultant, and they went through project by project and looked at
on an ongoing basis.
Oh, on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Well, the way impact fees are calculated, it's calculated kind of at a one time. So when we generated the next project list, that's good. On an ongoing basis, DKS, our transportation consultant, would make an assessment of the projects that get added to the list and how.
You would enlist their help again.
Yep.
That's correct. And for parks, it would be the parks staff would assist with that as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, a couple of questions. So just to clarify, so we have to change our impact fees to be based on square footage, not housing type, correct? Based on the state law?
It has to be scaled to unit size. The two most common are square footage and bedrooms. However, we think, and most cities agree with us in the meetings I've been in, that bedrooms are impossible to administer.
Okay. So can you just really quickly summarize then, what are the per square foot fees? And I think there's a min and a max. And what does that look like for, sort of the average, because isn't there like a max, it only goes up to 3,500 square foot. So if I build a 10,000 square foot house, I'm going to pay the same as somebody who builds a 3,500 square foot house. So what are so if we have 2,000 square foot apartments, what would that kind of look like versus a 3,500 square foot? Because the information that was brought up, like the data proves that there are fewer trips from at least car trips, which are the most expensive capacity to build for in multifamily versus single family. So I just want to make sure that there's enough differentiation, right, in the.
So we're not complex enough as a community to have a full bracketed range of impact fees. And that's
but we could?
We could. However, that'd be quite a bit more work to develop and also to administer, which adds overhead as the city operates in time. One of the challenges, and you can see that is accounted for in the blended impact fee. And so in the case of a 2,000 square foot apartment, it would be simply multiplied out by $3.13 for parks, $7.44 for transportation, and then when you went up to say a 3,500 square foot penthouse apartment, you would end up with multiplying that fee out, and that would be the max fee, which is $10,947 or $26,043. So it really is scaled, and the intent was that, as we understand it from the legislature, was not that we create various bracketed groups of fees, but rather you have a fee that is applicable to residential across the board so that you can apply it to unit sizes and whether or not it's, as we get into the world of middle housing and we start to see the fine lines between multifamily and single family be blurred, we start to end up with units like stacked flats, which are middle housing types, but they're also apartments. So where do you draw that line? That's where that gets challenging.
Okay, so just quick back of the envelope math, a 2,000 square foot unit would be about $15,000 and a 3,500 square foot unit would be about $26,000 just for the transportation element, roughly.
If that's how the math works, sure.
Yeah, I just did. I used the calculator, not my head. For the additions, so you guys made a recommendation on the ADUs because we can't really exempt that. For the additions, do you still recommend that we exempt all additions from impact fees? That feels dangerous to me, but.
The commission did recommend to exempt additions. Legal did not flag that as an issue. Legal flagged ADUs as an issue,
Sure,
which is why
it's
I brought
not
it
a
to you.
legal issue, but like, if I make my house 3 times bigger than it is, like, and I don't have to pay any impact fees, that seems like a mess.
Part of it is maybe we're following on a little bit of some of the other discussions we've had around the affordable housing fee and waiving that from additions, that it made sense to waive impact fees.
But we don't waive it from all additions. We're hopefully going to have some limits on that I can't just do whatever I want. Because then we're not going to preserve the affordable housing stock that we have today, which is part of the goals.
You have to look back to the code and see what it says specifically about how we handle home additions. I can't recall offhand what is included in the draft chapter.
Okay.
It just says additions.
Thank you. I think that's my question round is over.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Lamb.
So do the other cities or neighboring cities, do they use the blended rate as well?
I think we're kind of leading the charge in adopting the scaling impact fees. So we're out in front. Other cities are playing catch up, but I assume they will be doing a blended methodology as well.
Okay.
We've heard from FCS, our consultant, FCS, right? It's a DKS, FCS. I get the acronyms wrong sometimes. That they're doing work for several other cities, and that the blended fee is the approach that most cities are taking. I don't know what others would be used. The challenge is that you have to come up with a legally defensible formula that represents your housing stock and your dominant form of development, and trying to do that with forecasting that you're going to have more of one unit type than another, when in reality on the ground today you have more than one of the other, is really difficult. So it's also, you could choose as a city to lower impact fees across the board. What you can't choose is to lower them for single family or lower them for multifamily, but not single family. It has to proportionally align using the formula, if that makes sense. You can't pick one form over another, or you end up having to pay the difference in a fund transfer because you're granting a reduction that still has to be accounted for.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't know about exempting the additions, because what if somebody's adding bedrooms? I mean, if they're adding bedrooms, they're adding people, and to me that just makes sense that we wouldn't be exempting additions. Like, they would have to pay more. The other thing I have is for the reducing the fees for affordable housing. What if we were to reduce it 80%? This is what you have. Instead of waiving it, reduce it 80%. Instead of 0 to 50 AMI, it was 0 to 60 AMI. I was just looking back at some of the projects that Arch had granted funds for in 2025. And there were a couple of them that were specifically for 60% AMI. I think 60% AMI is still challenging to build, and there's still not enough of them. So, I mean, I actually would like to make it 0 to 60, and then 50% is 61 to 80. I don't know if that can be done.
I don't see any reason why it couldn't be done.
Okay.
I do want to highlight that even in that case, although we're not required to make the 20% transfer because we're not getting down below 80%, that is still a need for infrastructure in the city. I just want to be transparent about this, and that need would then be accounted for through the city's CIP process and through funding of the CIP. It's not that we grant a waiver for them or a reduction for them and the need goes away. There still is a need for infrastructure in the city. I just want to be clear that that is accounted for in a different way.
Yep. Okay, that's what I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. I also wanted to thank the Planning Commission for their very nuanced answer in response to council, and I appreciate that, and all the meetings they went through on this subject. So I feel like they really pulled it apart and kind of aired it out for us, and I'm appreciative of their work. I realized that we're out of compliance with the state, so we're like almost a year behind on this work, maybe not quite, maybe 6 months or so. So we really should wrap this up and get this done, right? So how, because I think, was it 8 years ago was the last time we updated this, the impact fees, is that right?
2015, I believe.
Okay. And would you say like a more beneficial or more, a better cadence would be, what, 2 to 3 years we really should be looking at this, right?
Well, we've built into the code that at the council's discretion, we could choose to revisit it. We've also built in that the impact fees will naturally escalate with inflation based on the construction cost index. So they'll stay a little bit more current than our current fees have. I think it would be probably appropriate, instead of tying us to a specific timeline, is, finding some way to say that when we update and adopt new capital project lists, that would be an appropriate time to see if the cost of that project list has really changed one way or the other. It would probably be appropriate to then rerun the formula and see what the outputs are. Okay. But if the capital project list stays relatively the same, it might be okay just to leave it.
Or
and just use the inflation increases.
Or if we're seeing that maybe in some way it's hindering the building of affordable housing in some way, could we come back and kind of revisit formulas then also in about, say, 2 to 3 years when we've had some time to see some of these projects move through the process? And if we think that tweaking this would help in some way, that's something that future councils come back and take a look at.
Absolutely, and that was one of the concerns the commission raised, is there was a fear that the impact fees might be hampering development housing production, and which was why one recommended actually reducing the overall fee amounts assessed, and we could certainly track that and come back and, as David says, adjust the dials and levers and see if we're trying to get a certain intended outcome from that.
Okay, perfect. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got just a few more minutes left in our meeting, so we will need a motion to extend. We do have council reports that might take a little bit of time, so I'd recommend we just do one extension for 30 minutes, and that way we don't have to go back and forth. If someone would like to make a motion.
I move we extend till 10:30. Just give it
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. All right, we can continue, and I have Deputy Mayor up next.
Thanks for continuing the meeting so I could ask my question. I'm just curious if you've looked at what percent of impact fees we are actually going to collect now with the exemptions we're giving and the discounts we're giving compared to what we would have under the old method. And I don't know how easy it is to do that, but I feel like we're going to end up with 20 or 30% of the impact fee revenue that we would have if we achieve our affordable housing goals. So I'm concerned about that.
Sure, it's a great question, and we tried to put together an example of what it could look like in a strictly affordable housing unit development scenario, because that's where the reductions are. So under this example, we created a made-up project of 100 affordable housing units, and on the left you can see we've got 20 units at the 38% AMI band, 30 at the 50%, and 50 At the 80%, you can see the square footages. And then if you just went on a per square foot fee amount, the total amount of revenues that you generate from that project. So a little over $1 million. If you apply the fee reductions that are in the recommendation, the staff recommendation of 80% up to 50% AMI, and then 50% for that 80% AMI band, you see ultimately the reduced revenues on the far right. So it does knock it down quite a bit. And again, that gap then, that $700,000 gap for the infrastructure would come from the capital projects funds to support that growth.
Yeah, so we would only be able to do fewer projects, basically.
Yep.
To manage that.
The counterpoint is something David described really well at the last time we spoke with you on February 3rd, is that difference might be the feasibility point for the affordable housing project. So it's that kind of trade-off there.
Great, thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Stewart, I see you up. I think you already spoke. Anyone else who has not yet spoken? Good. Okay. Your questions? I'm sorry, can you go back to that one? I'm ready to go, as you've presented. Okay, Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, a couple more questions. How have these fees incorporated or support our multimodal transportation goals?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. First, let me get back to the formula slide. There's a lot of slides in there. So first is the numerator there, that local input. So if you look at FCS's report, you see the project list that we have adopted. There are a number of those projects in that project list that are multimodal projects. They include adding bike lanes or trails or sidewalks. So the project list, while it was adopted before we had our updated TMP, it does include multimodal projects in there. The denominator, by the old model, used to just look at strictly vehicle trips, and that methodology limited how we could spend our impact fee funds to road projects. This growth in new person trips is a multimodal way of calculating our impact fees, because person trips includes driving, but it includes all other modes of transportation. It's just the way a person gets from A to B. So it's a fundamental shift in the formula towards a multimodal methodology.
I would also add that I think in 2024, there was a state law change that explicitly called out that impact fees, transportation impact fees, can be spent on multimodal projects, not just transportation only projects. So that was the precursor, and that's part of that was the shift in the state's in 3670A discussion around multimodal approach to transportation planning. That was part of that package. So it is accounted for in the foundation. We are, to the credit of commissioners that said they didn't like the list, we are in the process of updating our list in response to our TMP. So it just takes time for these things to work their way through the system. And when that new project list comes out the other end, there will probably be even more multimodal components built into those projects in response to the TMP, as well as likely some smaller projects that could be more easily funded. That was another thing we heard from the commission. Some of the commission members was that we've got all these big projects. We can't always fund those with impact fees. Is there a way to add projects that are smaller in scale that could be more easily funded and built? So hopefully that will be one of the results of that list, is that the next time we update this, that will be incorporated into it.
Excellent. Sorry, I don't mean to rush you, but I only have 4.5 minutes, and that includes your time too. So, so my next question is there a way to scale? Because one of the things that I'm concerned about, as you pointed out, 87% of our housing stock is single-family homes. We really need more housing diversity, not just because the needs of the community want it and need it, but also multifamily tends to be more affordable, just a fact. Our multifamily fee used to be $6,360, and now it's going to be, even for a modest size apartment, is going to be over $10,000, right? So part of, is there another way that we could scale that based on housing type in addition to size? Because I am very concerned that We are doubling or more than doubling, right? Again, a 2,000 square foot apartment, it's going to pay more than twice as much as what it would have paid previously. So we're kind of disincentivizing multifamily, right? With these impact fees for my project to cost out, I'm going to probably have to build a single family home so I can charge more for it, or I'm not going to be able to make it pencil out.
Well, I think the intent is trying to just disincentivize larger units, no matter what typology it is.
And I hear you, but like even at a 1,700 or even a 1,500 square foot apartment is going to have a fee higher than $6,300, right? Dollars. And so how do we expect that to pencil out in market conditions? And that concerns me. So I'm not too worried about the discounting we're giving for affordable housing, because we're going to generate a lot more impact fees if there's any development, because the fees are just going to be higher in general, like quite a bit.
Yeah, well, we did ask FCS the question you're posing and brought up by Mr. Stickney about multifamily and single family, and the response they gave is a little bit, we'd have to wait and see because this is all new and we don't know what case law will say on this. But the reason they recommended the blended approach is their read of the RCW is that it's the scaling impact fees are meant for housing units, they're meant to incentivize smaller housing units, not units of a certain typology. So that's why they feel like the safe boundaries is a blended fee that assesses the proportion of your system.
But it doesn't account for...
I'm sorry, Councilmember, your time's expired. You've got more questions. I will, is there anyone else who has questions? Okay, there are no other questions, but I will ask but the intent here was not to cut people off from asking questions. It's just to move the meeting along. I do have some questions. Are the timing that we've got here, you mentioned that other cities are still working on this. Are we way behind other cities, way ahead, or is everyone dealing with this timing issue?
Everyone's dealing with this timing issue.
So we're not alone on the...
We're certainly not alone in being late. Like, I think we alerted Redmond that this needed to happen in a meeting we had with them several months ago. They're like, oh, yeah, we're doing that too. So I think this is just everyone's getting caught up because the comp plan cycle was intense and a lot was thrown at us with housing regulations. So I think everyone is playing a little bit of catch up.
I'm just glad we're not alone. That's all.
Yep.
Okay. I feel like I had one more, but I don't. Councilmember Stewart.
Yes. So the one thing that I feel like this really doesn't take into consideration is the infrastructure costs for single family homes versus multifamily. So we know that multifamily dwellings require less infrastructure, right? They require less. And if we just take transportation, I'm not even looking at parks, because parks, one could argue it really is a per person kind of thing. But with multifamily, transit can work, whereas in our 750 plus cul-de-sacs, not so much. So we know that more roadway, Mary Wichter has done a great job of presenting a lot of data on how many more lane miles have to be laid for single family homes versus multifamily. So this doesn't account for that at all. Correct?
Yes, I don't disagree with the premise, and I think which is why one of the planning commissioners, their recommendation was to potentially look at different service areas, because we can create, state law allows us to create service areas, and in theory you could create a service area for the mixed use centers in the town center and come up with a legally defensible methodology of the impacts of the system within those centers and apply a different fee amount for that service area. I think it's a little difficult, as David said, right now to apply that because, one, we don't have fully built out centers. I think it would be hard to argue that we have a town center or mixed use centers that rely more heavily on multimodal or transit systems than other parts of the city, and we're just not that sophisticated yet. We're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. So I think it could be something we look at down the road when we have more multifamily that relies on different modes. But
however, with these impact fees, I suspect we won't get more multifamily, and that's my concern. Like I feel that my concern is that based on how the differential between multifamily units and single-family units will be a much smaller differential, that we will encourage our percentage to stay or go up of single-family homes, which is
Right.
really horrible for the environment and sustainability, as well as infrastructure costs, not just for the capital costs, but the ongoing maintenance costs of single-family homes versus multifamily homes is, again, nearly exponential. It's definitely a large multiple for sure. Correct?
One option would be to drive it down altogether, that you could choose to lower the impact fee per square foot. In the background, one of the challenges here is that the state legislature didn't do us any favors. They adopted this scaling requirement, and then a few years later, or not a few years later, right after that, they adopted middle housing requirements under HB 1110, and there's language in the bill, the scaling bill, that is in direct conflict with the language that's in 1110, and we're trying to reconcile it. What the intent was here is that they blurred the boundaries between what is a single family and a multifamily unit, and instead we're just simply charging a fee based on the square footage, based on what we anticipate to be the occupancy of those units. And that then should be a basic scaled methodology that's easy to implement and easy to calculate. But then they brought in middle housing, and middle housing blurred even more the differences between single family and multifamily. And now you might have a triplex. Well, is that single family or multifamily? Is that an apartment, or is that a condo, or is it a for sale unit? It gets really complicated now.
Yeah.
So we also want to think about how we implement this. And if we're now trying to put units in different categories again, when the intent of the bill was to blur the lines between the units, and I'm probably over my time.
No, it's my time, but that's okay. Sorry, David.
20 seconds.
Is that the end?
Well, he doesn't have time to finish, so why bother?
I'm allowing staff to finish the responses. We
Okay.
just don't want to keep going after they've done.
I'm trying to be mindful as well. All I was saying is that that we feel this meets the intent, and that then if we were to carve out other unit types and then build out another formula for that unit type, we think that is not consistent with what the legislature was trying to achieve, although there might be I think the term is perverse outcome that could result in less multifamily. I understand what you're saying.
I think the unintended consequences here and the lack of accounting for the actual infrastructure needs for transportation are just not accounted for in this model at all.
Understood.
Okay, David, do you have everything you need from us in order to move forward, or what else do you need from the council? I have no more lights on for questions.
I think we have what we need. And, this is, like I said, this is something that will come back for hearing on the 5th. It's something that we're going to be working on in the future with our TMP. And if there are other ways we want to do this, I think we need to set up our TMP going forward to allow us to amend the formula in the future. Right now, the way the TMP is set up and the way the PROS plan is set up it's not easy to carve out those different unit types or those different areas in responding to Councilmember Stewart. So just want you to be aware of that we could work towards that if there's feedback after the hearing that we want to adopt this now, but we want to think about this in the future. That could be feedback as well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time. Okay, Council. Up next, we have Council reports. This one is going to be a little bit different. During the retreat, Council Member O'Farrell, for reasons passing understanding, raised her hand when anyone asking someone to offer to talk about how we're doing with our guiding principles. So she has some notes based on what she's seen over the last quarter. Those that are yellow sheets. So she is going to give the council some feedback, and my request is that we all take it, listen to it, and if we have questions about it, we can schedule time to have coffee with Councilmember O'Farrell to get more details, but not to have a back and forth on the dais. Does that reflect your wishes, Councilmember O'Farrell?
Yes, but you're paying for coffee, though. It's no free coffee out of this, I'll tell you that.
We will let her go first, and then we'll come down the row for typical council reports.
Perfect. So everybody has their yellow. This is about our operating agreements. And just for the audience, council have agreed upon operating agreements, and there are 6 of them. It's to assume good intent, seek to understand, demonstrate respect, establish agreed upon facts, be accountable, and find common ground. And so we had agreed at our retreat that I would come back with some feedback. So I'm just going to read my little thing here. So MBAC has agreed to provide feedback to council at the dais on our progress. This feedback is on the 6 meetings that we've had since the retreat, not including tonight or the April 14th meeting. Remembering we're a new council with varying and passionately held opinions. We agreed to assign colours of green, orange and red as a rating scale. So this is my feedback. I'm giving us an orange as an overall scale for 6 meetings, and I'll explain. We have had moments of green. We've had good discussions around council procedures. We'd have jokes with each other even. We have good respectful discussions around council committees, moving and adding public comment options to the agenda during council goals discussions, many light-hearted moments. Orange, most of these issues, in my opinion, speak to our first agreement, which is to assume good intent. So let me just give some examples. So first, when we feel, and this is my observation, and I went back through all these meetings and I rewatched them. So it's not just from me going home as I was in the car thinking about this. I went back and I rewatched all the meetings, and that was super. When we feel pressure to explain why we voted in a particular way after the vote is complete, that is kind of an issue. Second, the use of point of order on a procedural matter may not always be helpful, even if it is technically accurate. And third, unclear the amount of time given for debate on an agenda item came up once or twice in calling for the question. So I encourage us all to periodically look back at our own meetings and listen to ourselves and the impact we are having both positively and negatively on the atmosphere of the meeting. I found it personally beneficial and eye-opening about my own behaviour, and also hearing parts of the discussion that I missed at the meeting. And that was really worthwhile. This is just an attempt to take the temperature down in the room between us. Okay, so I've just a couple of suggestions, and you can take them for what they're worth. Assume good intent and seek to understand each other. Get to know each other. I encourage those of us who have not had one-on-one social conversations with each other to do so. Remembering to direct our comments at the dais to the mayor and not to the council member directly, and attempt to keep emotion out of it. For me, it's keeping sarcasm out of my voice. I didn't realize I did that all the time. Need to visit how to make a motion, amendments to motions. So I suggest revisiting maybe Jurassic Parliament, maybe, would be a good idea. Worth clarifying about the length of time or how many rounds of discussion council will have on an agenda item. May need to be set at the beginning of each agenda item. And just by way of suggestion, for example, discussion around council goals, for example, when I went back and I watched that part of the meeting. The discussion about council goals from the perspective of a listener was quite difficult to follow, and direction to staff is quite unclear. We need to be more succinct in the feedback we give staff so that they can better support us in our work. And it was just very eye-opening watching all of us at a meeting, and you kind of go, what would I take away from that if I was a member of staff, and how could I formulate something based on all of that? And we're not maybe as coherent as we might think. Okay, and that is my feedback.
Thank you very much, Councilmember O'Farrell, for doing that. I know that was not a fun job.
And sorry, Mayor, I apologize. So if we want to keep this as an ongoing thing, somebody might want to volunteer to do the next series of meetings if they wish. Or if you want to continue to have me do it, I can do that also. But I think it's worthwhile continuing to do this as we're still in this getting to know each other phase. I think it's worthwhile. So if you found it useful, maybe we'll keep it going. But just let me know.
Okay. So you would like us to tell you separately if we want to keep it go? Okay. Okay. During the council reports, if someone wants to weigh in on their thoughts, that might be helpful. I'll start with Councilmember Boyer if you'd like to give your report.
Yes, Councilmember O'Farrell, please continue. And that's all I have.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
I attended a meeting at the YMCA before I came here. They were celebrating the achievement of their fundraising goal. They surpassed their goal. They were very, very excited, and it was just a wonderful kind of get together to be there at. So they're very emotional and excited. So thank you to the community for supporting the Y and all the great things they do. So thank you.
So I appreciate Councilmember O'Farrell watching all those meetings. I don't know how she did that. I mean, I'd like her to continue, but I don't, like, maybe you just want to pick a couple of topics and rewatch and not rewatch all of them. I'm sorry. So tomorrow I'm attending an event at the Puget Sound Regional Council. It's like a opening for what they're calling the Housing Futures Center. It is a partnership between University of Washington and PSRC, Puget Sound Regional Council, and it's a center focused on research, teaching, to address regional housing issues. And then on Thursday, I have a PSRC executive board meeting, and we will be talking about adopting the supplemental biennial budget and adopting the regional transportation plan.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember O'Farrell, and I feel like we owe you more than a cup of coffee. Maybe something slightly stronger, your choice. I do think we should keep it going. If Councilmember O'Farrell is willing to, I am completely supportive of that, but I do think we owe her more than coffee. I did have last week the GMPB meeting, which is the Growth Management Policy Board meeting. One of the big takeaways there is looking at different kinds of centers and how we apply across the region, what qualifies as a center and how we review them and make sure that they're still compliant. How do we make allowances for people who are still like meeting the goals and not taking things away. So there's a lot of discussion around that, and we'll be doing a lot more of that going forward. And we continue to approve comp plans from various cities. We're not quite done with that yet. I think that's all I had. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember O'Farrell. I was going to nominate Councilmember Boyer, but I promised to stop volunteering him for things.
Councilmember O'Farrell, if you are willing to do it, that would be great. I think you're a calming voice up here and did a very good job with your delivery. So if you're willing to continue, that would be awesome. So, and I've got nothing else to report. Deputy Mayor.
I agree. I think Councilmember O'Farrell did a fine job and should continue, and I'm happy to treat you to something. Kokanee Work Group tomorrow, and the ribbon cutting for Evans Creek, the new loop path. So I'll be at that because Mayor Amato will be out of town. And then I signed up for the tour from the Port of Seattle of SeaTac because I'm curious about the back end of that place, having been through it a few times. So that's my week, and I'll report afterward.
Yeah, thank you. So I agree with Councilmember Stewart. I think Michael Boyer should have taken the second round. So, but Roisin, thank you very much, Councilmember O'Farrell. Please continue. Do have a fundraiser tomorrow, and also there's Administrators Professional Day is tomorrow too. So I just want to thank Rachel and Scott for taking the lead in the city and all the work that they've been doing over the years. And so I just want you to know that tomorrow I will be thinking about you on behalf of the whole council and hope that you have a wonderful day. Sorry. Sometimes leadership is tough. And then I'll be late to the ribbon cutting at Evans Preserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur that Councilmember Boyer. No, I'm just kidding. A couple of quick notes. Just want to remind that this Saturday is our Earth Day event.
We forgot to mention that.
At Beaver Lake Lodge. It is from 11 to 2 p.m., and we invite everyone to come out and join us. Also, a quick reminder, same as last week, just a reminder that the website will be down for scheduled maintenance Saturday afternoon, post Earth Day event, to make sure that folks can find what they need ahead of that event. And then just to chime on to what Julie from the Chamber mentioned, the market is opening out here on the plaza on May 6th. It's going to be a great season, and the city is a proud supporter, major supporter of the market. And so with that, I would just want to encourage everyone to come out and join us for the market season. So thank you, Mayor. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to your? All right, all those in favor say aye.